tier list time. So a while ago, I made a guide about Honkai Star where I covered literally everything that you need to know, like from gearing, how to properly gear your characters, what gear to keep, how to invest in your account, what to pull, and I even made a section where I was talking about literally every single character in the game, about their role and what they do. But that was not a tier list, that was just giving you an overview of the characters. But this time I want to make a tier list. By the way, if you haven't checked that video, I recommend checking it, especially if you are a beginner or intermediate player who doesn't know much about the game. I think you're going to be finding every single thing that you need to know about it. But yeah, this time I'm going to be making a tier list where I'm going to be ranking them by power level. But there are a few things you need to know before we start. So the first thing, this list is obviously going to be from a meta standpoint. So if you just don't care about the meta and you just want to play your waifus, your husbandos, then don't pay too much attention to this list. But one thing that you need to know is that every single character in this list can clear content in the game, like even the end game content. Like there's not a single character who can't clear. Like people even to this days can still clear with Sealy and characters like that, like the other characters. So the only thing is going to be about how efficient characters are, like how much level of investment do they need, like how easy they are to play compared to the other characters. Because like even though some characters, like I said, can clear with some of the others like Sealy or I don't know, Jing Yuan or some other older characters, but sometimes there are some levels of strategies that people apply, like when it comes to speed tunings, like the eagle sets and turn orders, and a lot of advanced mechanics that honestly don't apply to the average player. So even though like you can see someone clear, like maybe do a zero cycle with Cyrene, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do it too, unless if you really know what you're doing in the game. So yeah, the first one is going to be the level of investments a character needs to perform the same way as the other characters who are above them or below them, of course. The second point is going to be all of these characters are going to be ranked based on their E0. The reason is because if I were to rank them based on their eidolons, then it's going to be so complicated and I would need like a different tier list specifically for the eidolons. There's going to be one single character, like it's going to be the exception. One single character that I'm going to be ranking based on their E2. I'm pretty sure that everyone who plays the game probably knows who I'm talking about. I'm not going to be spoiling it for now, but there's one character. So if you see that character, then I'm going to be ranking them about on their E2, and I'm going to be mentioning it beforehand, of course. So yeah, this is about E0 characters, not like E2. Some of them I'm going to be assuming that they have the light cone, because I know a lot of people, I know some people don't put for the light cones, but to be honest, for the DPSs especially, it's gonna be hard to rank them based on their like S0, like without an like light cone. But I'm gonna be assuming that characters have their light cones and at E0. And the last point is gonna be, so I know when it comes to tier lists, not like they can be very controversial. There's always gonna be people who disagree and they tell you, no, this character should be A, no, this character should be S, and things like that. But I would say, at worst case, you should use this list as a reference. Because what I mean is that, for example, if you see a character who is an S or A tier, then it means they are generally good. Like you can't go wrong with them. They are characters that are safe to invest in, who are still holding up to this day. But for example, for characters who are in D or C, then those characters, most people, if you ask them, they're going to be telling you, yeah, those characters are not that good, right? So you can think of it. This is why I put this in here. Like for example, when I said S, like I'm specifically saying these are the meta characters. A, because I don't want people to think no A, because I know some people think, okay, so S, if character is not S tier, then it's like you tell them, okay, they are bad. But that's not the case. Just because a character is not S tier, it doesn't mean that they're not good. Like for example, if S tier characters are like 9 or 10 out of 10, then A tier is like 8 out of 10 or like 7.5 out of 10 or something like that. They are still good characters. You don't get it wrong. So B tier are like the mid characters, like maybe 7, like between that range. C and D, like they are, I'm gonna be talking about them more when I get into them in here. But yeah, at worst case, just use this list as a reference, just to know what they do. And if you like, I would suggest is that if you're curious about character, then just check their section to know what I'm talking about, to have an idea about what they do and what their role is. But without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people must be curious about which character is gonna be here. And this list is reserved for only one single character, the chosen one. And that's gonna be none other than Mortenax Blade. So, in my opinion, I do consider Mortenax Blade to be the most broken character in the whole game, and he deserves his own tier because, as good as he is, I don't think he has the same value as the characters who are in S tier. He has a greater value. If anything, I don't really like this term when it comes to gacha games, the most pulled characters, but I would say in Honkai Star Rail, the closest characters to a most pulled in right now is Blade. Mortenax Blade specifically, not the regular Blade. So, Mortenax Blade, let's talk about this character and how he fucking broke the meta. What makes Mortenax Blade good is his flexibility. So, Mortenax Blade can fit in almost every single fucking team in the game. He's like the guy that everyone invited. He can be slotted in hyper carry, he can be slotted in like follow-ups, he can be slotted like, I think even in Dot, like I'm not sure about Dot. I think the only archetype that he doesn't really fit in is like the Monoram, because obviously it's called Monoram, so a lot of characters, and even then I'm pretty sure some people must have figured something to make him work in there. And the break. And even the break, like I'm not sure if he's good. Some people use him, but because break have some other specific support that they need, so I'm not sure if Blade would be a best slot in those teams. But other than these two, he can be slotted in every team. Like you can slot him in hyper carry. Like if you have any DPS, like you want to increase their damage, then you can't go wrong with Blade. Blade is your guy. Like you can use him for everything. You can, if you want to use him for DPS, you can use him as a support, you can use him as a debuffer, you can use him to clean your house, you can use him to clean to make your lunch. You can do everything. So Blade, like if it's not obvious, he is broken. And let's talk about what makes him broken. So Blade, first of all, he is an HP scaler like you see here, but I know my HP is low, but that's because I'm using him as a pure support for my Acheron, which I'm going to be talking about later. But he is an HP scaler, just like his base, his regular version. So what does he do? First of all, his main thing is that his ult deploys a zone, and that zone where it does a lot of things. First of all, it gives a defense threat for 30% and also vulnerability for 50%. And these two are already good by themselves, because the thing is, defense threat and vulnerability have their own multipliers, unlike things like the damage percent, the attack percent, carry damage. Like these buffs are diluted and they lose value the more you stack them, and a lot of characters already have them in their kit, so they are very diluted when it comes to like stacking them. But that's not all. On top of that, his ult, as long as it's active, where is it? I don't know where it is in here. But anyway, as long as the ult is active, then he increases. Oh yeah, I think it's here. So as long as it's active, he gives 50% increased damage, flat 50%. But he also increases ult damage for the allies. And this is why I said earlier that he is good for Acheron, because Acheron's main source of damage is her ult. So he synergizes well. Although he has a lot of other synergies with her, which I'm going to be talking about too. So yeah, he gives defense threat, 50% vulnerability, the like the damage increase, 50% damage increase, and the ultimate damage 75%. Like these are 4 things in just his ult, which is like insane. But that's not all. So his talent makes it so that when he attacks or the allies attack the enemies while the zone is active, or when he also gets attacked, then he's going to be getting a charge, and after 9 charges he is going to be unleashing a follow-up attack, and that follow-up attack does a decent amount of damage. It's also the same attack that he does with his skill, because when the zone is applied, is on the field, then his skill is going to be changing and he's going to be doing a certain skill instead. So yeah, that damage is not bad, especially if you have his light cone. And by the way, if you want to use him as a DPS, then it's recommended to use his light cone for him. But because, for example, like I said, I'm using him as a support, then I'm using burst because it applies even more defense threat, which stacks very well with his defense threat from here. And you can also use the tutorial, like this one, for more energy, because Blade kind of wants more energy. This is the reason why I'm using like an energy roll. So why I'm mentioning energy, so when his ult is active, it's gonna have its own countdown in the AV bar, like, you know, similar to Firefly for the people who have Firefly. As long as that countdown persists, then the zone is going to persist too. So you want to have enough energy that for the next time when the zone finishes, you're going to have enough energy to deploy it again, because you don't want to have downtime, of course, because if you have downtime, then you're going to be losing all of these these debuffs and buffs from his zone. So this is why energy is good for him. But the thing with him is that he has a nice quality of life. So when his zone finishes, then he's going to be gaining automatically a certain amount of energy. So you don't have to build the energy from the start, like from zero. No, when his energy is depleted, like the zone is depleted, then he's going to get, I think it's 75%, something like that. I don't know where you can find it in here, but he gains basically like an energy refund. So you only need a little bit of energy to recast the ult again, the zone again. But also when the zone is active and your energy is full, instead of deploying a zone, then he's going to be doing a massive DPS with his attack. He has a specific ult, a second ult if you want to call it that, where he does damage, and that ult actually does a good damage. It does a good damage. Like a lot of people use him as DPS because of that. But like I said, you need to know how to balance his energy and know how and when to use his ult, like the second ult I mean. And you need to have, if you want to use him as a pure support, then I would recommend using an energy regen, because giving him HP percent is kind of pointless because he's not going to be the one doing damage. For example, when I'm using him with Acheron, then I don't really care about his damage. His damage is negligible. But yeah, this is what he does. Like I said, he has a lot of debuffs and buffs for the allies. He also inflicts... Oh, and by the way, one thing that I want to talk about is that when the zone is active, every time he attacks, or any ally in the team attacks an enemy, then they're going to be inflicting a debuff. Or also when he himself gets attacked by the enemy, then he's going to be inflicting a debuff to them. And also when his ult is active, like the zone is active, then he gets increased taunt. So he is most likely to be the one who's going to be attacked, unless if you have a Jing Yuan in the team. The Jing Yuan is going to be the one to attack, because for some reason she has an increased taunt chance. People who have played Jing Yuan during the first months when the game released probably know what I'm talking about. But anyway, because I swear to God, like some enemies are rigged to be hitting your support instead of your fucking tanks or destruction characters or whatever. But anyway, jokes aside, he is most likely to be attacked when the zone is deployed. And like I said, if he is attacked, then he's going to be inflicting a debuff. And this is why I said he is good with Acheron, because Acheron wants debuffs to be applied on the enemies. So when the zone is applied, any ally who is in the team who attacks the enemies, then they're going to be inflicting debuff, and that debuff actually contributes to Acheron's stacks. And also when he gets attacked. So Blade alone in the team provides an insane amount of value for Acheron because of the stacks that he is going to be inflicting to the enemies. So yeah, this is why he is good. So overall, he can act as a debuffer, as a buffer, as a sub DPS, as a main DPS, and as a tank, because he can be tanking. And also you might be thinking, okay, but what if he dies because he has an increased taunt chance? Well, his debuff, his zone also, if he is struck by I think, where is it mentioned? I don't know where it's mentioned, but you probably see it. Oh yeah, this, I think it's here. But anyway, when he is struck by a killing blow when the zone is active, he's not going to be died. He's going to be revived and the zone is going to be depleted. So if he revives again and your energy is full, then you're going to be applying that zone again as soon as you revive, so that when it dies again, then you're going to be deploying again, and so on. So in a sense, he's kind of immortal as long as you have enough energy, and this is why I really like his energy, because it makes it so that it's easier to use him in sustainless teams. And because he is a universal DPS, then you can use him, and then you can use the best slots to support for the DPS that you're using him with. And that alone is going to be giving you like some easy 0 cycle, 1 cycles, basically fast clears, instead of having to sustain. Your damage is going to be so high that the enemies are not going to be able to keep up with it. But yeah, this is it for Mortenax Blade. One thing that I just want to briefly mention, I know that I said this is going to be an easier overviews, but I just want to talk about his E donuts because he has some of the best ones. So his E1 basically gives like res ban, like he decreases the res for the allies, and like I said, things like res, defense shred, vulnerabilities have their own multipliers, and res especially is very valuable because it's such a rare debuff or a buff that increases your DPS's damage by an insane amount. And on top of that, it's also like his E1 also like delays his countdown, like the zone. So basically it makes it so that the zone lasts for longer. But his E2 though, his E2 is absolutely busted. So if you read in here, you're gonna be seeing that the ultimate damage the enemies do is gonna be considered as a follow-up damage. And he himself increases the follow-up damage by 75%. And you might think, okay, so basically what his E2 does is that it increases 75% of damage, because on top of the 75% from his ult, like from his zone, like I said, he gives 75%, is also going to be providing another 75% damage to it, because they actually can overlap. It's not like you only get one of them, you get both of them. But the thing is, because the ultimates are considered as a follow-up now, it means it has good synergies with characters that interact with follow-up. For example, Ashveil. Ashveil has a passive where he increases the follow-up damage for characters that are in the team. So for example, if you are using a team with Blade alongside Ashveil and Acheron, then this means Acheron's ult is going to be buffed by E2, like the 75% from Blade's E2, but also because her ult is also considered as a follow-up now, she's also going to be benefiting from the buffs from the follow-up attacks from Ashveil, because Ashveil buffs follow-up attacks. And then there are other characters who want follow-up attacks, like for example Feixiao, even though this is not something that you're going to be using, but just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, Feixiao's E2, like for example, every time an ally attacks with a follow-up attack, she gains 1 charges. So because the ultimates are considered as a follow-up, so she gets benefits from it too. But you see the idea. So his E2 is more than just 75%, but it also means that she's got the DPS that she's using, who's going to be doing the ultimate damage, is also going to be fitting in the follow-up teams. So this is why it's insane. But on top of that, it also decreases the hit charges to 7 from 9, so he's going to be doing more DPS because he's going to be doing follow-up attacks more frequently. And because these follow-up attacks also gives energy, it means it's going to be generating more energy to do more ultimates. So this is why you see people hype his E2 a lot, because it does a lot. Because if you just read it, it might look simple, but then you consider this is a team game. And there are a lot of synergies when it comes to this idol, and this is on top of the damage that it gets from here. But yeah, I think this is it for Blade, because if I'm going to be talking about it, I'm not going to be stopping, because I'll have to talk about every teammate, every synergy that he has. But like, all what you need to know is that Blade is busted. Like, he is the character that you need to put if you want a good value character in your account. Because I'm going to be honest, I do genuinely think that Morte is the most broken character of all time. And what I mean by that is that, for example, when Tribbie released, she was considered as the best support and the generous support. Every team was using her. But the thing is, even Tribbie at her peak, I don't think she had the same impact as Morte Blade had. Like, I'm not only talking about Tribbie, even the support that were before. Like, for example, Robin, when she was released, she was fitting in every team. Ruan Mei, even, like, I'm not sure if people were playing the game at that time, but when Ruan Mei was released, she was considered the best support in the game. So support like that, when they released, they were considered good, and like they were carrying the meta. But Morte carries even more. Like, he is insane. I'm not comparing him right now to them, because obviously he is better because of power creep and all of that. But the value that he has in the meta right now is more than those supports when they were at their peak. Mainly because of his flexibility, because he can use a lot of things. Like, you can use him in HP scalers, in attack scalers, in like all different archetypes in the game. So if you want to get a good character, then you have to get him. And if you want to invest vertically, I would actually recommend getting his Eidolons over his Lightcon, because his Lightcon, like I said, is only good if you want to use him as a DPS. So if you want to use him as a DPS, then sure, get his Lightcon. But if you want to use him as a support, which I personally think is more valuable, then try to get his E1 or E2, specifically his E2, because it's the most broken one. Like for me, for example, I'm planning to get his E2 on his Rerun because I want to pair him with Acheron and Ashveil. So the dream that I'm planning to use is Acheron, E2 Blade, and Ashveil. So, and maybe Hyacine or some sustain if I need. If I don't need a sustain, I'm going to be using like my E2 Sparkle or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, this is it for Morte Blade. I know this was long because there's so much, and I promise the other characters are not going to be this long, but I just wanted to emphasize how important Blade is. Okay, so next up, it's gonna be Ashveil, and Ashveil is gonna be easy S tier, like it's an easy S tier. So Ashveil. What does Ashveil do? So when Ashveil released, a lot of people were speculating that he's just gonna be like the sub DPS for the next main follow-up DPS. But boy, were we wrong, because it turned out that he mocked every single character in the game. Like, even the actual main DPS that are like in the game, he was doing more damage than a lot of them. And this is assuming that he is really a sub DPS, which honestly I don't think so anymore, because you can use Ashveil as a hyper carry and he works very, very well. But honestly, Ashveil's kit is very simple. There's not many things to talk about, but the main thing about Ashveil is that, first of all, he has a passive that increases the crit damage and universal. Like, just because he exists in the field, every character in the team he gets critical damage. And he also increased further 80% for the follow-up DPS, for the follow-up attacks. So if you use him as in a follow-up team, then he increases the damage for them more. And this is why people were thinking that it's just going to be like a sub DPS and that there's going to be a proper follow-up main DPS in the future. But like I said, that's not really the case. So this is one of his passives. He has a universal damage increase for anyone, and then a further 80% damage for the follow-ups. But the thing what makes Ashveil really good is that his follow-up attack frequency is really, really good, because he does a lot of follow-ups. Unlike other follow-up attack DPSs like, I don't know, Feixiao or Moz or Topaz, the other follow-up DPS that we had, these are more frequent. He does more damage, and also they ramp up very well. I'm not going to be explaining his mechanics because, first of all, I don't have him, so I'm not going to be able to explain them properly with the right terms, because he has like these bait and gluttony mechanics. But basically, he does a lot of follow-ups damage, and this means he also pairs well with Blade. This is why one of the current best teams in the whole game actually revolves around Blade alongside Ashveil. And then you can use characters like Tribbie and Hyacine if you need a sustain. And if you don't need a sustain, then you can use the support for Ashveil to make him like the hyper carry, like Sparkle or Sunday. So yeah, even though some people say that you can use him as a sub DPS, like for example, oh, you can use him with, for example, Feixiao, but no, no, honestly, like because Feixiao was like the previous main follow-up DPS. But right now, if you use Ashveil with Feixiao, then your team DPS is going to be lower than if you just use Ashveil himself, because Feixiao does actually want Ashveil if she wants to do more damage, but Ashveil doesn't want Feixiao because he just holds her back, and you're better off using, like I said, a support like Sunday or Sparkle to make him do even more damage, and then give him more pushes so he gets more turns, and then he gets his stacks more, and then you spam his ult, and then this gives more charges to Blade, etc. You get the idea. But yeah, Ashveil has a good value. Honestly, I think he's going to age even better, because if we end up really getting a main follow-up DPS, then it just means that you can use them both. And honestly, I can't imagine how fucking busted the team is going to be. Like, if we get, like, for example, main DPS and then you replace, for example, Tribbie or someone, you have Blade and Ashveil who are already busted by themselves, and they're going to be having a main DPS follow-up who's going to be doing the more damage maybe compared to Ashveil, and it's going to be insane. So yeah, just don't let the thoughts that people say there's going to be a main DPS makes you like not pull for him. Pull for him. If you want Ashveil for in the future, then pull for him. I think he's going to age very well. Next up is Anaxa. So Anaxa is going to be in A tier. So Anaxa is when he released, it was also rumored that he's going to be like top DPS for the Herta, who's going to be after him. So what does Anaxa do? Anaxa's main gimmick is that the more weaknesses the enemy has, the more he's going to be doing damage, but it also makes it so that his skill, if the enemy has max weaknesses, like if he has all 7 weaknesses, then his skill is going to proc twice. And you might think, okay, but how the fuck are we going to find enemies who have multiple weaknesses? Well, Anaxa's kit himself is going to be applying those, so he applies more weaknesses to the enemies. But on top of that, his ult also applies a debuff where the enemies are considered to have multiple weaknesses, which makes it so that he can proc his skill. Basically, you don't have to think too much about it because like you will always be doing the double proc of his skill. And as for his performance, I would say he's not bad. Like he is still good. Like considering how old he is and considering how infamous the power creep in Honkai Star Rail is, I think he is still really good. The only thing for Anaxa is that he really needs a certain support, and that's Cyrene, because Cyrene is the one that increases his performance even better. So if you have Cyrene, basically it makes it so that he gets an extra turn. She gives him a push, similar to like how Sunday and Bronya do. And I think she also gives him one skill point, if I remember correctly. So yeah, he kind of needs Cyrene to perform well. Honestly, I think she is his best teammate. His other teammate is also Cerydra, this one. So Cerydra also makes it so that he can proc. I don't want to talk about other characters too much before I get to them, but Cerydra's main gimmick is that she makes it so that the ally do more skill per turn. So Anaxa procs his skill twice, so with Cerydra it makes sure that he can proc it 4 times, which is insane. Like, when you look at Anaxa gameplay, you're just gonna be seeing him keep shooting with his gun, boom, without stop. So that's why Cerydra is also good for him, and she also buffs skill damage, which is Anaxa's main source of damage. So yeah, I think Anaxa has good value, but I can see him falling off a little bit over time, because the issue with Anaxa is that his vertical investment is not that great. So even if you want to invest in Anaxa more, then you are fucking cooked, honestly. Like, if it sucks if you're an Anaxa man, because even if you get his E6, then his E6 doesn't do much damage. You're better off investing in the supports than him. But he is not bad. You can still use it. And the next one is our peerless gem, the Herta. And man, how the mighty has fallen. I think out of all the 3.x characters that we had, the Herta was the one that got hit the most with the power creep. And she is one of my favorite characters, just to make it clear. The Herta is one of my top 5 favorite characters in the whole game. And it pains me to say that I would honestly put her at B tier. I can see an argument to put her at A tier, but to be honest, I don't think, for example, she's as good as Anaxa. So, because even her main performance was in PF, Pure Fiction. But nowadays, even in Pure Fiction, she doesn't perform well. And this is assuming I'm talking about E0, by the way. I'm not talking about Eidolons, because if we're talking about Eidolons, then her E2 would be obviously higher. I would put her easily in A tier. But at E0, she has so many issues, because she is a pure AoE damage, and she gets a stack when she ults, so that makes it so that she gets an enhanced skill, and that skill does a lot of damage. Well, not a lot for today's standards, but that's her main damage that she does. But her E2 makes it so that she can do 2 of those enhanced attacks. Some other things I can't remember. I think she gets more damage increase or something like that. But the main thing is that she gets 2 enhanced skills. But to be honest, she's not that great. I don't really use her at all. I have her, but I don't use her. I don't remember when was the last time I used her. I'd rather use any other character than her. Like, I even use Jing Yuan. Granted, my Jing Yuan is very invested, but Jing Yuan is a very old character. This is not even AoE, but she performs better than the Herta when she's supposed to be when the Herta is supposed to be better. But yeah, the Herta is sad. She is so sad, man. Please give her another flare. I'm begging you. Please give her another flare, please. Like, because she is I don't know, like, even if she gets good teammates, but like the other teammates are going to be supporting other characters better. Like, it's not only gonna be about the Herta. Like, they need to make a character where if the Herta is in the team, then you're gonna be providing these buffs to her. But that's not something that's gonna happen, of course. But yeah, the Herta, don't bother with her. I think even Anaxa is better than her, even though Anaxa was supposed to be her sub DPS, but now he is better than her. And now for Sparkle. Sparkle is an easy S tier. No questions asked. So Sparkle, for the longest time, she was starting to fall off. When she released at first in Penacony, she was good. Like, she was one of the best supports in the game. But then Sunday released, and Sunday stole her job because he was doing everything that she does but better. And she was falling off super hard in the meta. But then she got buffed. She got another flare earlier this year. And that elevated her to be one of the best supports in the game. The thing with Sparkle is that she is specific for Noir archetype, and that archetype is crit damage DPS. Basically, any character who does crit damage. So characters like Phainon, like Ashveil, like Anaxa, any character, like any character. So basically, any character with the exceptions of characters like dot characters, break, and monorame, because monorame have their own supports. But other than that, she can use with any crit damage DPS. So what she does is that she give so her main gimmick is that she gives skill points. So she increases the max cap of skill points from 5 to 7 to 8, I think, to 8 after the boss, because 7 was before her boss, to 8. But her ult also gives skill points. But on top of that, she gives a lot of crit damage. She gives like I think defense shred. Yeah, she gives defense shred, and she also gives an action push, like action advance. However, the action advance, unlike Sunday and Bronya, is only 50, like 50% of it. So, for example, if your DPS is very low in the bar, then you don't expect them to get any immediate action after you push them with Sparkle's skill. Because I think that's the only thing that's holding Sparkle down, is that she doesn't give 100% action advance. Because if she had that, she would have been insane, even more insane. However, that's not really relevant for characters who have like decent speed. For example, if you're using that for a character at like 134, 135, basically above 130, then every time you push them, they're gonna be getting a capsule, because you can loop very easily with them. But beside that, she can be used in any crit damage scheme. She is super good. If you want to invest in her, then I would actually recommend getting her E2. Silverwolf, I'm gonna be honest, she fell off so hard, because she did actually get a Nova Flare, Nova Flare last year during the anniversary patch. And her Nova Flare was good. It was actually really good. She was basically acting like Blade, where she was used as a universal support in many teams, especially if you have her E2, because her E2 makes it so that she gives more vulnerability, I think. Basically, I think it was vulnerability. I can't remember which one it was exactly, as if it was defense shred or vulnerability, but basically more increased damage to the enemies. And she applies the debuffs to them every time an ally attacks, which made her very good with Acheron. Especially, like, for example, one of the best teams that Acheron had was Silverwolf alongside Tribbie, because Tribbie does more follow-ups, so that gives more debuffs because of E2 Silverwolf. But anyway, I'm talking about E0 now. So E0 Silverwolf, she's okay, like, she's not right. So Silverwolf basically is just a downgrade of Blade, because Blade does everything that she does and infinitely better. And that's why I'm going to be putting her as B tier, because she's not really good, to be honest. She is not good. She is alright, for example, if you don't have Blade, if you don't have some other supports. And by the way, she is in the 50% loss pool now, so if you get her, then you can use her, especially if you are early in the game or mid game. But other than that, like, she is not best in slot for any team nowadays. Sunday, how about Sunday? I have a lot to say about Sunday, actually, and some of it might be some hot takes. So Sunday, I'm gonna be putting him in S tier, and I know some people might not be agree with it. They might think it's A tier, but let me explain to you why. So Sunday, what makes Sunday good? So when Sunday released, he was rumored to be like a summon support, and once again we were wrong, because he ended up being an universal support for a lot of teams. So Sunday, for the longest time, he was dominating the meta, which is sad, because some people nowadays makes him sound like he was always bad, or he was always like, I don't know. And the reason of this was because of the Sparkle boss, the Nova Flare that she got. So as soon as Sparkle got her Nova Flare, a lot of people were starting doing posts in Sunday as if he was bad. Even though, admittedly, Sparkle is generally better. She is going to be better than Sunday in a lot of scenarios, but Sunday has a lot of things to make him good that makes him better than Sparkle too. So let me talk about Sunday. Sunday, what he does is that his ult gives energy, and he also gives crit damage for that has basically an infinite uptime. He's always going to have that crit damage up for the DPS that you're going to be giving it to. And this energy is actually good, because if your DPS has like low energy, like 0 energy, then he's going to be giving them even more. I think it's 40%, it's 40 energy. So he's gonna be giving energy to the ally. But on top of that, his skill also gives, I think I'm not sure if it's mentioned in here or in here. Yeah, it's in here. So when you use his skill to on a DPS, he gained 20% crit rate. And that 20% crit rate is insane. And this is why I think a lot of people sleep in on Sunday. I know this might be when you talk about people about the support, the only thing that they see is how much amp they give. And like I said earlier, yes, Sunday has weaker amps to Sparkle. Sparkle will give more increased team damage and DPS to the TPS that you're using. That's correct. But Sunday has a lot of utility, and one of them is the crit rate. So this crit rate is good because it makes it so that the requirements of the crit rate for your DPS can be lower. For example, if you want to sacrifice crit rate for more crit damage or attack or whatever other stats, like for example even speed, then you can do that. You are allowed to do that. Because crit rate is like, I can't remember how many rolls, but like that's 10 or maybe 8 crit rolls. And that's crazy because that's like one or two pieces, maybe two pieces of gear that have to roll in crit rate. So he already eases the requirement of crit rate for your DPS. And this is one of the reasons I think it is good. The other one is of course because of energy, because a lot of characters do require energy. Like for example Aglaea, like Herta, like Jing Yuan. I know these are not characters that are meta, but just to give you an idea, I can't think of any character who need energy right now. But the energy is good. It's not like it's something that you can neglect. But also he is SP neutral at worst or SP positive at best. I say that because of his light cone. So his light cone makes it so that if you use your ult or skill on an enemy 2 times, I think, or 3 times, I think it's 2. Yeah, it's 2 times. So every 2 times you use his skill or ult on an ally, and this is like, so basically it works. For example, let's say you use a skill on the DPS and then you use the ult. That's already 2 instances, and then you get a skill point. So that's how it works. So if you have his light cone, then it means it's going to be always SP positive. Like you're never going to be running out of SP. And this is why I said earlier when Sunday released, it took Sparkle out of her job, because Sparkle's main gimmick was skill points. But then Sparkle got Nova Flare, and then she kicked Sunday out of his job, so now she has more amps. But anyway, my point is that don't let people fool you into thinking that Sunday is not that great. Of course, he's not as good as Sparkle, and some other teammates already have their best in slots, so sometimes Sunday has less teams to work with compared to before, but this does not mean that he is not great, because the things that Sunday provides, you're not going to be finding them for any other support, like crit rate, energy, good uptime for the crit damage, not good uptime, it's like infinite uptime, and a lot of things. His E1 is also decent because it gives ignore defense rate, although it's only 60%, but it also gives 40% if you have a summon. And speaking of summons, his skill also gives increased damage, and that damage is further amplified if you have a summon. And this means that he pairs well with characters like Danheng Terra, because Danheng Terra gives a summon to your DPS or the character that you use him on, and that makes it so that they're considered as having a summon, so that he gives the full value of the damage increase on your DPS, which is 50%. So it's a total of 80% damage if they have a summon. So yeah, Sunday is good. Like you see, he's not as bad as most people. Just because Sparkle got buffed doesn't mean that he's bad. Some people argue that he needs a Nova Flare. Personally, I don't think he needs a Nova Flare. A Nova Flare would be good. It's not that it wouldn't be bad. A Nova Flare would be welcome to give him something else, because the issue with Sunday nowadays is that the buffs that he gives are diluted. Like I said, crit damage and total damage are buffs that don't have that much value because a lot of characters already give them, so they're not that great when it comes. So if he gets a Nova Flare, I would like if he gets a pen, like maybe he gives like ignore pen to the DPS or defense shred. But even though his E1 gives defense shred, but maybe they can also change this one and give him something else, because his E1s are so bad. Like his E1 is the only one that is good. So maybe they can give him like defense shred or something like that. But I also don't think he necessarily needs another flip, because there are other supports who need this more. Like for example, Ruan Mei, even Robin. Robin is literally worse than him. And yeah, he also can be used in the 134 plus setup. So basically you need 134 on your Sunday, and then 135 on your DPS, so that your DPS goes and then suddenly goes after him, and then they push him, and then they get an immediate action, and things like that. Yeah, so that's it for Sunday. Sunday is still good, and I still consider him as an S tier. I don't think he's any bad just because Parker is good. Maybe in the future, once we get even more support, then he's gonna be phasing out more. But right now, in the meta, he is still good. Robin. So Robin, when she released, she was supposed to be a follow-up support, but in the end, she turned out that she is a support for like every team. When Robin released, she was used for every single team in the game almost. She was similar to how Mortenax Blade is right now in the meta. But nowadays, I don't think she is that great. She doesn't have that much value because, like I said, Mort and Tribbie and other characters just do her job better. But Robin, anyway, for her ranking first, let me put her in A tier. So I think she is A tier. I don't think she is B tier yet, but she is very close to B tier though. Like, she might fall into B tier because the only reason I'm putting her in here because she is accessible from the golden shop, and also she is still decent for some speed run clears, like for example 0 cycles, mainly because of the way she gives like the instant actions bar to everyone in the team, and also because her E1 is really good. Her E1 is actually really good, and you can have easy access to it from the shop if you want it. So these are a few of the reasons why I'm also putting her in here. But to be honest, she is honestly really on the S, should be falling to B tier. But anyway, for now I'm just going to be putting her in A. So what Robin does is that she gives a lot of attack. So this is already one of the limiting factors for it, is that she only works with attack scalers. She can't work with HP scalers. She gives flat attack, and she also gives an action advance for the whole team with her ult. The only issue is that you can't spam this because when she ults, she enters into concert mode, and during that mode she can take any actions. She does generate energy because of her passive, but other than that you can't control, so you have to pray that she has enough energy after she exits so that she can use her ult again. But other than that, she gives total damage from her with her skill. She gives the rest pen with her E1, like I said earlier, and she gives more follow-up damage to the team. This is why she was pairing very well with characters like Feixiao and Topaz when she released back in the days. But nowadays, like I said, there are other characters who are much better than her. Doctor Ratio. Doctor Ratio, when he released, he was given for free. And at that time, he was not bad. He was actually a solid DPS. Even when he released, I wouldn't say he was S tier when he was released, but he was like maybe A tier, which was very good. Nowadays, he's not that great. I can't remember exactly what he does, but from what I remember is that he is a follow-up DPS. Like, this is a factual, so he is a follow-up DPS, and the more debuffs are on the enemy, the more chances he has to launch a certain follow-up attack that he has. But the issue is that he is a single target, and also his damage is not that insane. So yeah, for that I'm gonna be putting him in C tier. I don't think he is like B tier. I don't even think he's alright, especially now in the current meta. Like right now, the enemies have so much HP that Doctor Ratio just basically tickles them. To be honest, I think he does probably almost the same damage as characters like Tribbie or other supports, like who are supposed to be supports. And Ratio is a main DPS. It's not a sub DPS or anything. He's a main DPS, but his main DPS is not that great, to be honest. So he is not worth it. If you want a follow-up DPS, then just get Ashveil. Even Feixiao is better than him. Who? Literally who? I'm kidding. So who just got a Nova Flare just recently. I think it was 2 patches ago during the anniversary. I think it was the anniversary patch. I can't remember exactly. Like, bro, I play so many gachas I can't remember anything. But anyway, so who just got a Nova Flare recently, and at first glance it was not that great. And to be honest, you can't really blame people for thinking it was not great, because what it did is that it increases her charges so that she has 3 charges right now. So she can kind of be like SP positive or neutral, because back then she was SP negative. But even then, like, you still want to use her skill, like even though she has 3 charges, because her sustain is very bad. But the thing about her is that she gives energy and attack buff. And by the way, I would put her in A tier. I know this might sound insane, but the thing is that the teams that she works with right now are really good teams. It's not like Like if she didn't have good teams, then I would put her in B tier. But because she works in a really solid teams right now, then I would put her in A tier for now. The teams that she works with are teams like Evanesia and who else? I think they are. Oh my god, I forgot who. But anyway, the main team right now, the meta team that she works with is Evanesia, this character. But other than that, she is gonna be good for characters who want energy because her ult is really good. It gives a lot of energy for the whole team, not just for one character, for the whole team except for herself, but it also gives attack buff. So she has good utility for a sustain, and this is on top of her sustain. The only issue is that she has that as a sustain, she is bad, which is hilarious because she's supposed to be an abundance character. But she does a better job as a support than as a sustain. So if you want her for the teams that she's like, for example, she works well with the Herta too, by the way, because the Herta wants some energy, and she also works decently well with Aglaea. Although with Aglaea, we would want to use Sunday Patino. Like I said, I want to talk about Arthur, then I'm not here. But oh, she is not bad. You can also pick her from the Golden Shop if you want, and you can pick her Litecoin too if you want. If you buy the BP for some reasons and you have the currency that you get from the BP, then you probably have enough to get her Litecoin too, which is something that I did as well. But yeah, Huohuo is not bad, but she is like around the edge between A and B tier. Like if she doesn't have any other teams in the future, then she's gonna be falling in the B tier. Ah yes, I am the bone of my sword. Huh? What does he mean by that? Anyway, so Archer is a free character who he was given for free last year when the Fate collab was released, and you can also get him for free right now with the current update. And if you want him even E1, then you can pick another copy from him from the free copy that you get right now, because that's how it works. Anyway, as for his ranking is gonna be easy S tier, which is insane. S tier because I know characters after 1 year period, then they start falling off. Like for example, Anaxa, like I don't know, some the Herta characters like that. But Archer is still sold even right now, and he is really good for a free character. Oh my god. So Archer's main gimmick is that he needs a lot of SP. He is SP hungry because basically the more skills that he does, the more damage he can do. And he can take multiple skills in one turn. So as long as you have skill points, you can keep unleashing his skill. And like I said, that skill ramps up the more you unleash it in a single turn. Like in a single turn, not in the next turn. So if you commit in one turn, then you better have a lot of SP ready. And because of SP, this means he pairs well with Sparkle. And Sparkle was also kind of given for free during when she got her Nova Flare during 4.0. Yeah, 4.0. So if you were playing at that time, you probably have Sparkle because she was one of the best picks you can get from there. So Sparkle, Ashveil, you can have a free team with Ashveil, Sparkle, and some other supports, and they do an insane job. Like even right now, you can get some very good scores with them. Like in modes like Apocalypse, even in Mock, even in Anomaly. The only mod where he obviously is not good is Pure Fiction because he is a hunt character. He is a single DPS, so you can't really use him in AoE scenarios, although you can use him in elite mobs. Like if there are 2 elites, then you can use him there. But yeah, he is good. His damage is insane. He has some really free to play teammates. You can get his life bound for free too, by the way, if you have spent enough moves during the collab. I don't think you can get it right now though, because right now we have the guild collab, so I don't remember if you can choose which one you can get because I already got it from last year. But anyway, he is good, he is solid. So if you have started playing the game right now, like if you were not playing last year and you started playing the game right now, and you have the choice between him or Gil, then I would recommend getting Archer. Getting Archer, because Archer is the better character. He is one of the best DPSs in the game for a free character. So yeah, you won't regret him. But if you don't have him, if you have the choice between his E1 or Gil, I would honestly just get Gil because his E1 is decent, but it's not super game breaking, and getting a new character is better. But yeah, get Archer if you started the game right now. I'm uploading this right when the Fate collab is going, so you better get your ass to it. Okay, Cerydra. So Cerydra is a character who is super niche. She is one of the most niche Harmony characters we had in the game, and this is why a lot of people were not excited for her when she released. But the teams that she worked in are insane. Like, for example, the teams that she has right now, as of right now, are Anaxa and Phainon, and also Himeko Nova, which I'm going to be talking about later too. So these are the teams that she works with, and this is why it's a bit hard to rank her, because technically, because she has some very limited uses, you might think she might be low, but because she is very necessary for the characters that she worked with, I'm going to be placing her in A tier. Because if the difference between having her and not having her in the teams that she works in is mind-blowing, is game-changing. Because Cerydra's main gimmick basically is that she gives a buff to the skill damage of the DPS. So basically she only works with the skill-based DPSs. This is why I said she works with Anaxa, Phainon, and Himeko Nova. So she is limited. But what she does is that she gains some stacks the more skills or ults the DPS uses, or even if she uses her ultimate, she gains some charges, and at 6 charges, once the ally uses a skill, then they're going to use the skill 2 times, not once, twice. And like I said, for characters like, for example, Phainon, if you use his Meteor, then you use double Meteors, which is an insane amount of DPS increase for the team. Because that basically makes you cheat one skill, and building up those skills, like for example, Phainon takes a bit of ramping of time, like you need to either waste some turns, or if there are... Anyway, I don't want to be talking about the mechanics for Phainon because it's a Cerydra overview, but like I said, she makes you cheat 2 skills at once, and she also buffs those skills very well. And if you want to invest in her, I would recommend getting her E1 over her Lightcon. Her Lightcon is not really that good. You can just use the free Lightcon that you get from an event that gives attack percent, and just get her E1. So what Cerydra's E1 does is basically that it makes it so that the enemy that she's buffing, the ally that she's buffing, gains ignore defense, and this defense ignore is further enhanced after you get her max stack, like the 6 stacks, which is this peerage that you see in here. So that peerage is when the character procs double skills. So not only do you double skill, but the double skill has an insane amount of damage and buffing that ties to it. This is why I said that Cerydra, the teams that she works in, she is really good at them. And the light cons, like, you can just use anything. Like, you can use this one from the event, or you can use this one. Basically anything that gives her attack, because attack is the only stat that she scales off. Next up is everyone's girlfriend, and that's all other than Firefly. Just one thing that I want you to keep in mind. Like I said earlier, this is from an E0 overview. Like, this tier list is from an E0 perspective. So this is assuming an E0 Firefly. And in my opinion, E0 Firefly is gonna fall into A tier. But if we were talking about E2 Firefly, however, then she would be an easy S tier. Like, easy S tier. She would be a high S tier. But E0 Firefly, let's be real, she is not as good as an E2. So let's talk about what makes Firefly good. So Firefly is a break DPS, first of all, and she, for the longest time, she was starting to fall off. So when she released, she was good. Like, Firefly, when she released, she was fucking buzzing. Like, you can blame you can blame Firefly for the HP inflation that we had in the game and for all the power creep, because she was one of the original sources of the power creep that we had alongside Acheron. So yeah, she was busted on release and even after a few months, but then after Amphorius we started getting even more power creep and she started falling off. But later on we got a certain character, which is this one, the Dahlia, who elevated her and made her good again. But then, as if that was not enough, they also gave her a fucking Nova Flare. That Nova Flare is fucking busted. It made her so good. Like, it basically it increases her number a lot, and they gave her more quality of life, especially to her E2. But like I said, Firefly is probably she is the best break DPS that you can have in your account, because the only other ones that we have are Boothill and Rappa, but they are not as good as her, to be honest, because they didn't get as much support as she did. But yeah, Firefly is good because, first of all, she has her main source of damage is her break, like I said, and her skill inflicts fire weakness, which is her element. So you can bring her in any combat, regardless of the weaknesses of the enemies. She can slot anywhere. And she also has self-sustain because of her skill that heals her, so it makes it so that it's easy to play her in sustainless team, especially because it's a break archetype. So if you're using characters like Ruan Mei with her, it makes it so that the enemies are delayed even more after you break them, so you have more DPS window to keep beating them up and do more damage. So break teams with Firefly are actually one of the easiest sustainless teams in the game to play. This is the thing about her in E0, but E0 there's not much to talk about E0 Firefly, to be honest. Her E2, however, her E2 is where the meat and bread is. I know I said I'm going to be making this about E0, but to be honest, there are some characters that are so hard to talk, because E2 Firefly is like a whole different character. This is my Firefly. I know my build for it is actually insane, but 290, and I think I need to speed tune her speed because of her boss. But anyway, this is not about me. So her E2 what it does is that it gives her an extra turn after she breaks the weakness of an enemy. And if you played any turn-based game in your whole life, you would know that extra turns are always fucking busted. So this makes it so that she basically does almost double the damage that she would do in E0. And this is why her E2 is good. Her E1 basically makes it so that her skill doesn't consume any SP. And to be honest, sometimes I forget this one is even in E1, because I got E2 Firefly on her release, so I always had her E2. And this is something that I always forget. To be honest, I don't know how the fuck can you even play a Firefly at E0, because you would need to manage a lot of SP and like you only get less turns with her. So she is a bit hard to play. So her E2, prior to her buffs, it only procced once every other turn. So for example, let's say you broke the enemy toughness this turn, you get the extra turn, right? So her turn finishes. Next time she gets a turn, and even if you break the toughness, you don't get an extra turn at that time, like before her buff, before Nova Flare. But after her Nova Flare, it makes it so that you can get the extra turn every time. That restriction is removed. So every time you break the enemy, you're always gonna be getting the extra turn. By the way, it's either when you break or you defeat enemies, but breaking is the more common way to get it. So that's why. Unless if you are using her in battles when there are like the extra ads, like small mobs, then you can take advantage of that to kill them and then get the extra turn, because there's two conditions, either by breaking or by killing. That's when you get the extra turn. But yeah, E2 Firefly is insane. She is fucking busted. It makes it so that she gets a lot of turns, she gets a lot of damage, she heals a lot because of her skill, and yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. To be honest, if you have the choice between her E2 or her Lightcon, I would say to get her E2 first. This is not to say that her Lightcon is not good. You want her Lightcon too, but if you have only the choice of one thing, then get her E2. Her E2 is game changer. Castorice. So Castorice was the queen of 3.x. She was the character who got the most amount of support in the whole fucking game at that time. And this is why a lot of people were salty, because they were like, you know that meme of like the one drinking from that pipe and people are getting crumbs like of water, and then there's like someone who's getting all of the water. Like the one who was getting all of the water is Castorice, and the other characters who are getting crumbs are like characters like Aglaea and Mydei and some other characters. But anyway, Castorice was fucking insane when she released, and she was the best. Her team, like with what we call the mono-ram, we call it the mono-ram because every character in this was mono, that was the remembrance, so that's why it's mono-ram. So her team at that time was easily the best team in the whole game. And to be honest, even right now, I think she is one of the best characters in the game. I don't have her though, but even right now, I would say her team is probably maybe top 5 best teams in the game, somewhere around that, maybe top 6. But anyway, around that range, but it's still good. And this is why I think she is still S tier right now. However, I do think that Castorice is starting to fall off a little bit in the meta right now. Like, she is not as good as she was before, and some of the newer characters right now, like Silverwolf 999 and what the other characters like Ashveil, like some of the other DPSs are better than her right now, and even some of the other DPSs got better support that are better than her. Like for example, E2 Firefly is better than, for example, E2 Castorice. I think, maybe, but I'm not too sure. I can't really talk because I don't have Castorice. But anyway, she is good, but she is very close to fall off. To be honest, the only reason why she is good is because her team is good, and you can't use her in any other team. Like the only team that you can use her is Cyrene, Hyacine, and Evernight. Like this is the main team that she uses. So in a way, she is kind of carried by how busted her team is, but she's also good. Like she's not like she is bad or anything. But if she didn't have those quality of support, then honestly, I would think she might have been A tier. But anyway, Castorice's main gimmick is that she gains her ult charged by whenever someone in the team loses HP. And this is why she works well with characters like Evernight and Hyacine. And she also like has her skill that makes it so she drains HP. So the whole team's mechanic is HP drain. And the more HP is drained, that she gives some buffs to the memo sprites in the team, and that's also her main source of damage. And she is a solid DPS. Like she is a solid DPS, but like I said, she is starting to phase out of the meta. To be honest, I think like maybe from 6 months from now, maybe her team is gonna fall off a little bit. Aglaea. So Aglaea was, when she released, she was good, but honestly, even when she released, I wouldn't say she was like S tier or anything. But she, to be honest, I think she is one of the DPSs who remained stagnant. Like she never got really meta, but she also never fell off. And this is why I think she is like around AA tier. So Aglaea's main damage is she has like a summon that she gets on the field, and then she does this joint attack with that summon. But her main thing is that she scales off speed. She needs as much speed as possible, but she's also energy hungry. And this is why Sunday is her best teammate, because she has a summon, which means she works well with Sunday. But also he gives her more energy. Like she really needs a lot of energy. I think because I don't have Aglaea, so I can't really speak too well about her. But Sunday is her best teammate, like her best teammate that you can use for her. But anyway, she is an electro lightning, like we call them Acheron. She's a lightning DPS. At some point she was better than Acheron, but after more, no, Acheron is better. But she is good. Like honestly, she is really good. I don't know why she is still relevant to this day, but a lot of her mains like find a way to use her. But her main thing, if you want to invest in her, is E1, because her E1, I think, I can't remember what it exactly does, but basically it gives a lot of quality of life, so that she is not as energy and speed hungry like she is at E0. But yeah, I don't have much to say about Aglaea, but she is just overall a solid DPS, lightning DPS. Okay, so let me talk about Himeko. Himeko, my beloved. For anyone who is not familiar with my channel or familiar with me in general, Himeko is not only my favorite Huohuo character, but she's also my favorite female character of all time. So she is a character that I have at E6, that I just got E6, so I never played her at E0 or any other idle ones. And she is still kind of recent, like she just released like 3 weeks or 4 weeks right now when I'm recording this video. So she is a fire erudition DPS, which is funny because she is literally the same as her base, like the one that we have. But anyway, E0 Himeko Nova. So E0 Himeko Nova, as much as I love her, I think at E0 she would be at A rank, A tier. I don't think she is S tier though, because S tier it would be if we're talking about E2. But at E0 she has a lot of restrictions and limited usage. But anyway, let's talk about her. So Himeko Nova. Himeko Nova has two main gimmicks. The first one is that she has an assist skill. This assist skill is basically a skill that she has, an independent skill that any ally in the team can use. The only issue with this assist skill is that if anyone in the team uses it, then it basically replaces the skill that they were going to use. Like for example, if you were going to use a basic attack or a skill, then that skill is replaced by it. So it's like it uses up your turn. Except if one of the allies is a Trailblazer companion. Basically, characters like Sunday, basically the Astro Express, like everyone who is in the Astro Express. If you have an Astro Express character, then those characters can use this assist skill, and then they can get an extra turn. And this assist skill actually does a lot of damage. Like you can think of it like as a secondary, like main source of damage of Himeko Nova, because her main damage is still her ultimate, because it does a fuck ton of damage. But her assist skill also does a respectable amount of damage, to be honest. But anyway, this is like one of her main gimmicks. And the second one is that her ult basically has a certain stacks that you need to get when you use your like assist skill. I'm not sure if this is actually tied in E0 or not though. But anyway, like her ult is like what you're going to be building up to when you use her, because her assist also gives her energy. It counts as if she's the one who is doing damage. The second thing about her is that she has two modes. So she has this, let me show you from here. So she has two modes, like she has the vertic and protocol mode. Decimation mode, excuse me, like I was just reading here. So she has the vertic and decimation mode. So these two modes acts in a different way, and you can only have one of them at a time. Like you can never have two of them at the same time, just to make this clear. So the way you get one of these, so you only get them when you have a Astral Express member in the team. So this already makes Himeko Nova's team composition very restricting, because you have to have a Astral Express in here. Like you need Sunday, any of these characters are in here. So for verdict, so if you want the verdict mode, then you have to use her assist skill, like the one that I was talking about earlier, with one of these characters. Like for example, if it's Sunday's turn, for example, and then use the assist skill on his turn, then she's gonna do the assist skill, there's gonna hit the enemies, but she's also gonna give them an extra turn, because if you remember, the Astral Express member gets an extra turn after the assist skill, so you can use this and then still have an action for them. For example, basically for the verdict, the main character you're gonna be using is Sunday, to be honest, or IMC. IMC is also good, to be honest. But Sunday is better because he also gives her energy, he gives her action advance so that she can refresh her assist skill, things like that. And the second mode is Decimation, where you need one of these teammates. And for this one, you're mainly going to be using Welt. You're not going to be using these three characters, of course. So Welt is the only one that you can use for Decimation. And the way these two behave is Verdict, basically it makes it so that every two charges, like so every time someone uses an ultimate, she's gonna get a charge, and after two charges she's gonna be launching an assist skill. So she get, like you can read in here, like it's a bit hard to explain, especially because she is still new, but basically like every two times someone uses their ultimate, she's gonna be using assist skill, but also during this mode she passively, like this is a passive, she's gonna be gaining more ult damage. So you can think of it verdicts as like the DPS mode, like for her own DPS, or for example if there is a boss, like if there is a boss and you are using her with only supports, then verdict you can think of it as the mode where she is the main DPS, she is the hyper carry. Decimation, however, is different. Decimation you can think of it like the AoE mode. So in this mode, she buffs the allies, so she gives them crit damage in here, like you see here. So she gives them crit damage and all of that. But also, every time you hit an enemy, she gains one charge for every time. So after she reaches 9 charges, she's going to be launching her assist skill. And this is why I said this is an AoE mode, because this is honestly only viable if you are in AoE, because you're not going to use this against the single targets, otherwise it's going to take you forever to build up. But for example in modes like Pure Fiction, or if against enemies who spawn a lot of mobs, then this is actually a good mode to have, and you can use her with the Welt too. So this is the difference between her. It depends. Honestly, it's hard to tell. I'm not going to tell you which one is better or which one is not, because it just depends on the way you want to use her. Generally speaking, I personally like Verdict because I want to use her as a main DPS, and also because I have her at E6, but even at E2, it makes her Verdict very good. And this is why I'm going to be talking about the Eidolons. So, Eidolons are game changers, like not her, like her E2 specifically. So her E2, what does it do? Her E2, it removes one of the biggest restrictions from her assist skill. It makes it so that even non-Astral Expresses, when they use the assist skill, they can take the turn immediately. So they don't waste a turn by using an assist skill. Because like I said, for example, if you're using her with a Sparkle or another support, like for Sparkle, then you have the choice between either the assist or a skill. But obviously you're going to be using a skill because she's a buffer, so that she can buff Himeko. But now with her E2, you can use the skill, and then you can use the assist skill, and then you can use her skill in the same turn. This is one of the first thing about her E2. Second thing about her E2, it reduces the restrictions. I think this is her E1, by the way, not her E2. Yeah, it's her E1, but obviously because it's tied to her E1. But her E1 basically it reduces the limits of charges from her verdict. For example, if you remember in verdicts you need to cast ult twice with them in your team, to get the charge, like to get the assist skill. But because of your E1, it makes it so it's only one. And it also reduces the AoE mode, like the decimation. It reduces the amount to 6. Like instead of 9 hits, it makes it so that it's 3. It's 6. It's reduced by 3. So this is an E1, but because it's you need E1 to get to E2, so it's worth talking about. But anyway, besides the restrictions of the extraction to the regular allies, it also increases your assist skill. So this 130% that you see here is like an increase of multiplier, which is insane. It's a huge multiplier, by the way. It's not like only 130%, like damage increase, total damage. No, this is an actual multiplier in her assist skill damage. But anyway, this is the only thing about her E2. But on top of that, she also gains more assist skill usages, like overall. So basically every time she gets you can use her skill, assist skill, twice in the team before she gets her turn again, and then she recovers it again, and then and so on. So her E2 is very strong. It fundamentally changes the way that she plays. This is why it's one of her most recommended investments. And the issue is that even though I want to say that if you want to invest in her, get her E2 before her Lightcon, but the thing is, her Lightcon is so busted because it gives her 30% defense threat, but it also gives her a lot of energy. So it gives her energy, it increases her assist skill, and it's very, very, very busted. But if you don't have it, then you can use the Herta Lightcon if you have it. But to be honest, I still recommend getting the E2 first. Like if you want between the Lightcon or the E2, then get the E2. But yeah, this is why I said that the difference between E0, Himeko Nova, and E2 is massive. It makes it like a whole different card. Like E2, Himeko Nova is actually might be one of the best DPSs in the game. Maybe top 3, easily top 3 best DPSs in the game. But yeah, this is about Himeko Nova. I know I talked about her too much because she's still recent and her banner is still going, so maybe people are curious about her. So yeah, like if you wanna pull for her, then this is what you're in for. She is good, even at E0 she is still a good DPS. It's not bad, but she has a lot of restrictions and team compositions that are limited. Like for example, if you want to use a decimation mode and if you don't have an E4 Welt, then it's gonna feel bad. Her performance is gonna be very bad. But if you, for example, have an E4 Welt, then it's gonna be good. Oh boy, and speaking of Welt, so Welt also got a Nova Flare recently on the anniversary, and it might be the best Nova Flare of all time that we had in the game. This Nova Flare is fucking nuts. The only issue is that a lot of people talk about his E4, and because he is a standard character, then it's kind of fair to assume that a lot of people have it, but I also know that a lot of people don't have it, and then some people get fucking mad when you bring E4 Welt, because how dare you bring up E4 Welt? This is supposed to be, like, especially if you say E0, E4 Welt is considered a 0 cost, then you're gonna have someone come to your house and fucking stab you to death. But anyway, Welt is a bit hard to evaluate. So I'm going to be talking about both his E0 and E4, but regardless, I still think Welt is S tier, especially at E4. Okay, so I'm going to be honest, I think I'm only going to be mainly talking about his E4 because his E4 is like the main thing that you're going to be using him for, because at E0 he is alright, but I'm just going to be talking briefly about E0. E0 basically it makes it so that his ult every time an ally attacks the enemy, it makes it so that the action of the enemy is delayed. So E0 Welt makes it so that you don't really need a sustain in the team, because if the enemies don't take a turn, then you're not taking any damage. And if you don't take any damage, you don't need a sustain. So you can just use him instead of a sustainer, and he can do very well. He also slows the enemies with his skill, and additionally his talent also makes it so that he gives defense threat, like 40% defense threat. Basically this is the E0 Welt. But E4 Welt though, so E4 Welt makes it so that he decreases 30% of all type res of the enemies. Like this is AoE, because the way you get this weightless, I think that's how we pronounce it, weightless debuff is from his ult. So when you ult, then you inflict that weightless debuff, so the enemies in that state will get 30% all type res. And like I said earlier in some, I don't know which character I mentioned this, but anyway, 30 res, the res is such a valuable debuff because it's very rare, and it doesn't stack additively with other debuffs. It has its own multipliers, so the value that you get from it is insane. And this is why a lot of people like value E4 Welt a lot, and this is why also people are mad if you don't have E4 Welt and then you make a showcase with an E4 Welt and they tell you, why the fuck are you doing this? I'm gonna come to your house anyway. But E6 is not that great. E6 only makes it so that he does more damage, like it only increases damage and it lowers his crit rate to the requirements, and that's pretty much it. But anyway, this is why Welt is good for like Himeko for the decimation mode, because not only does he fulfill the requirements of her, the Astral Express in the team, but he also provides utility. Because if you use another teammate for her, then like you're just using that teammate for as a cheerleader, they don't do anything. But Welt also gets the job done. But yeah, he gives 30% rest ban from here, and he also gives 40% defense shred. Also can act as a sustainer if you hit the enemies in the present, like I think it's, I don't know what it's the state's called, I think it's weightless or whatever it's called. When they are in the effects of the ult, then the more you attack them, then the action gets delayed and they never get a turn. So yeah, he is very solid right now. If you don't have E4 Welt and whoever gets up, for example, a standard selection or something, then just try to get his E1s, at least E4. You don't really need E6, only E4 is enough. Okay, so Gerpard. Gerpard, not worth talking about, to be honest. Like Gerpard, like he is a standard character. He literally does nothing. Like the only thing that he does is that he gives a shield with his ult, and he has a freeze in his skill that has a chance to miss, by the way, because he needs effect hit if you want to hit it reliably. And like that's all what he does. You don't really use Jeopard. You can literally use, there are already other free sustains like that we got, like for example DHL, like who is infinitely better compared to him. But yeah, if you got Jeopard, it's not really worth using, like unless if you are literally at the start of the game. Like if you, because I remember back when the game was new, he was not bad because enemies didn't hit as hard back in the days. But now enemies hit so fucking hard. His shield is gonna be broken instantly, and the only way that you can get it is from his ult, so you're fucking cooked. Cyrene. So Cyrene is another tricky character to rank though, because Cyrene makes it so that she was the support for the Crisis Heirs from Amphorius, all of them. She is the only character in the game. Well, not only because we got Rin and Gale too, but anyway, those are exceptions. She's the only one of the very rare occasions in gacha games in general where you're gonna see that they only provide a buff to a certain character. So her skill make it so any character that you give it to, it's gonna have a different effect. Like if you give it to Anaxa, it's gonna have a different effect compared to Phainon, compared to Aglaea, compared to Tribbie, etc. So this is why she is kind of makes her a niche support, and that's what we thought too. But to be honest, it turned out that Cyrene can support other teams too. But the issue is though, this is an E0 overview, but because it's an E0, it's hard to put her very high, because her kit has a lot of potential, but the issue is that she is very slow to ramp up at E0, because she needs a certain stacks that she only gets when allies take actions, and she needs 24, which is insane. So by the time she gets her ult up, like you might have done already something else if you had another different support compared to her. And this is why her E2 is considered good, because her E2 makes it so that she gets those stacks very fast, because she starts the fight with 12 of them with her E2. I think it's 12. But yeah, anyway, she makes it so that she can get stacks very fast at E2, and you don't have to worry about that. And she also provides true damage buffs, similar to Tribbie's or RMC. So her E2 is busted, but E0... so E0, I'm gonna be generous and put her at A tier. Like I said, her kit has a lot of potential, because once you get her ult running, like even at E0, like if you get her ult, then she is going to be good, because she's going to be doing her job. Like if you want to support the Crisis Heirs, then she is going to be doing her job properly. But the only issue is that she needs to get to that point, and because like a lot of contents in the game requires like very low AV, especially like Anomaly or Pure Fiction and the other one, what is it, Apocalypse Shadow, then you're wasting a lot of turns for nothing, and you want to be fast. But I think A tier is fair for her. You can think of her similar to Cerydra, where she is niche support, but the niche that you work with is very good. But yeah, like I said, if you want her, I'm not going to be talking about what she does for every Crisis Air because otherwise it's going to be taking too long. I don't want to go through all of it. But if you want to play, I don't know, Aglaea, Anaxa, Mydei, like she actually made Mydei very good when she released because Mydei was one of the very few Crisis Airs that didn't get a support, and she is also good for Castorice. She is best in slots, and yeah, any Crisis Air, she is good. I think with the exception, not the exception, she can work well with Hyacine, but Hyacine has a specific team which I'm going to be talking about. But she can serve as a fourth best in slot if you don't need a sustain for the team that Hyacine needs. But if you need a sustain for Hyacine, then that's a different story. But yeah, Cyrene is good for the teams that she work in, and like I said earlier, she can even work outside of the Crisis Earth, but that's only if you have her at E2, because her E2, like I said, makes it so that she buffs the allies to make them do true damage, like similar to RMC and Tribbie E1, and she also gives a buff like increased damage. I think it's like 50% or something like this. And also like Cyrene's damage also is respectable. It's not too bad, to be honest. Like Cyrene's damage is not bad, and because she scales off speed, it means she gets a lot of chance to do her damage, and she is AoE. Yeah, I think that's all there is for me to talk about. Just make sure if you want to use her, you have to do your researches, because like I said, she is very slow. Because if you have her at E0, some other supports might perform better, even for the Crisis Airs that she is supposed to support. Like for example, for me, I have Phainon. I have an E6 Phainon, but my Phainon works better with Sparkle and Sunday compared to if I use her with Cyrene. And this is why I never bothered with getting Cyrene, because Phainon is the only Crisis Air that I have, and I didn't bother getting her for him because he works better without her than with her. Like she gives quality of life, but I don't really need quality of life for Final. I need more damage to finish the battles fast, because he is one of the best DPSs at E6, so I don't really need her. And this is why I said you need to do some researches to know if your Crisis Spear DPS would perform better with or without her. This is at least at E0. At E2, most likely she is going to be better. Okay, so next up is going to be Bronya, like regular Bronya, standard Bronya. And surprisingly, Bronya is still decent even to this day. Like, if you don't have, for example, Sunday or Sparkle, then Bronya is going to be your next option. The issue is that because we don't really have too many action advancers in the game, the only way you can get some action advance from your support if you use DDD. Like, for example, you use Tribbie, who doesn't have action advance, you can use DDD on her, she can still gives it, and whatever other supports. And she is a bit hard to rank, because to be honest, I kind of want to put her at A rank, because I still think she is not bad. But also can be a bit clunky, because the issue with her is that she's not SP positive. Like, even if you have her light cone, but her light cone only give SP every, like, it's not consistent, like you don't get it at every ult. So this is why she is a bit weird to evaluate, but I think I'm going to be putting her as B though, because I don't think she's as good or as valuable as some of the characters that are in here, but she is also not too bad, so I'm just going to be putting her in the middle tier. But basically what she does is that she gives a solo damage increase with her skill, and she gives attack percent and crit damage with her ult, and that's basically all what you... Oh yeah, and she also has a passive where as long as she exists in the field, she gives more damage to the team. I can't remember the value of that, but anyway, that's basically the main thing that she does. Her E-ones are not bad, but I think her E6 is the best one, because it makes it so that her the buff that she gives from her skill, the total damage, lasts for 2 turns, which is good. But also one of the issues with that is that her E2, I think her E1, gives speed to your DPS, and this is both a curse and a boon, because the speed buff can mess up with your speed tuning if you have a team. Like, for example, if you have a 134 plus team, then it can make it so that it can be very weird and your turn order is all messed up. But anyway, if you are starting, for example, the game, if you don't have many supports still and you need to pull for them in the future, then you can use Bronya. Like, Bronya is generally, it's not too bad. Like, don't get, even though she's standard, but don't get the wrong idea that she is not good. Evernight. So Evernight is another character that I don't have, so I don't have that much experience with her, but I know what she does in her main game X. But she's going to be going in S tier, by the way. So Evernight is the other member of the monoram, like I was talking about earlier with Castorice, Evernight, Cyrene, and Hyacine. Uh, Evernight can be both a sub DPS or a main DPS. Like if you're using her with Castorice, then she is gonna be like a sub DPS. Even though to be honest, she still does a lot of damage, so she might as well be a main DPS so alongside Castorice. But the main thing she does is that she gives increased damage. She buffs the Memo's price in the field. This includes, for example, Castorice, Hyacine, and even the Cyrene, because Cyrene after her ult she is still considered as a memo sprite herself, the mirror, the memo sprite that you summon with her. So yeah, she does that, and also every time I think it's every time they lose HP, she gains her stack where she uses her follow up after a certain amount of charges. I can't remember exactly because I don't use her and I don't play her, so she is a mono sub DPS in the Castorice team, but she can also function well without Castorice. Like you can use her as a main DPS with other buffers. Like you can keep Cyrene and Hyacine and use another buffer for her. Like I don't know, maybe I think Tribbie. That's what people use with her. But she is good. Like even right now, she is very, very, very good. She does a lot of damage, and some people nowadays are even taking Castorice and keeping Evernight in the team. Like if there's anyone in the mono realm who is falling off, it's actually Castorice. It's not Evernight, because Evernight has a lot of utility on top of having damage. Like I said, she buffs Memo sprites. She has frequent attacks with her like charge things that she gets with her Memo sprite, and etc. The IPC Jade. Jade. So Jade is hard to rank because Jade, when she released, she was supposed to be the queen of pure fiction, but then she only lasted for a few updates before like HP inflation hit her hard. Because the only thing about Jade is that she does AoE damage. She gives a buff for like another AoE DPS that you have, so you need to have her with another AoE damage dealer. And the more damage they do to, like, not the more damage, the more enemies they hit with their attacks, the more charges she gets. And after a certain amount of charges, then she does the whip skill, the follow-up that she has. But the issue is that she is only relevant in a single mode, and that's pure fiction. But even in pure fiction, she is not that good anymore because her damage is just too low. Her damage is not relevant. Like, the amount of damage she does, she's basically tickling the enemies. And that's why I think she's only at C tier, to be honest. I don't even think she is B tier anymore, because you're better off using, I don't fucking know, a buffer or anything other than her. You are using her is just a DPS loss at this point. Nowadays we have so many characters that can buff your DPS, or be like, even Tribbie can be bought a buffer and even as a decent DPS, like in pure fiction, because we have a lot of trash mobs in there. Then Tribbie's DPS is actually not bad. Hyacine too, like I don't know, like there aren't many characters who pair well with Jade. Maybe I think Jade is one of the characters who need a buff, and I don't think she needs a buff in her damage. I think some buff in her damage would be nice, but I think she needs more utility. She doesn't have that much utility, that's the problem. But if she was like a follow-up or AoE erudition or whatever support, then I think she can have a good place in the meta. Then maybe she can be B or maybe even A tier. Aventurine, another APC, my beloved, one of my favorite characters. So Aventurine, the whole job is just that he gives shields. Like, he doesn't have any other utility. All what he does is that he gives shields. And when he released, he was good because he released during the time where we didn't have many sustains, and it was a bit hard to run sustain in list teams at that time, so you still need a sustain in your team. And Aventurine was not bad, and he also had a follow-up like attack after he gets a few times when the team has a shield, so he has a follow-up. And that follow-up was not bad because of Feixiao team at that time, so he could work well with Feixiao teams. But nowadays, if you don't have more utility in your kit and you only a sustain, then you don't have any place. Like, his only buff that he has is that in his ult, where he gives an increase, like the enemy makes it so they get more critical damage increase, and that's only crit damage, so it doesn't apply to characters who don't do crit damage, like Dot, like other archetypes like Break or whatever. And that's only, by the way, it's only a single target. It's not even AoE, like the buff that I was talking about. And it's very minimal, it's very negligible anyway. So yeah, the only thing that he does is that he gives shields and nothing else, and that's why I think it's only C. I'm not putting him in D because, like I said, he's a decent shielder. Like, if you don't have a shielder and you somehow have him, I don't know, if you were playing the game back then and you came back, you don't have any others to send, then maybe you can use him. But other than that, no, it doesn't have any other place in the meta. Feixiao. I talked about Feixiao a lot during Ashveil and some other characters review in here. And Feixiao, when she released, she was really, really good. She was also one of the best DPSs, and she kind of broke the curse of the Hunt, because Hunt always had this bad reputation. It was both Hunt and Erudition. These two paths were always such a mean paths because the characters in them were not good. There were always characters who do their job better, like Destruction characters. They did their job much better than them. But anyway, Feixiao was a solid Hunt DPS when she released. Nowadays though, she fell off so much, especially when characters like Ashveil released. Like, the difference between Ashveil and Feixiao is insane. I don't think she is bad, but I also don't think she is that great either, because she doesn't have that much support. And like, who are you going to be using with her? Like, let's say for example you need a sub DPS for her. The other options before Ashveil release were Topaz and Moz. Like, these were the only follow-up DPSs, sub DPSs that you used with her. But those are so bad right now. Like, if you want to use Feixiao with those two, like, that team is gonna be so absolute dog shit. And if you want to use Ashveil, then it's even worse, because Ashveil is gonna be having his damage tanked down because he's using fucking Feixiao, and you're better off using Ashveil with fucking supports like Sunday and Sparkle to use him as a hyper carry alongside Mortenax Blade. I already talked about Ashveil earlier, so if you want more info about him, just go to his section. So this is why I think Feixiao is phasing out. And I think she is B tier. Like, I don't think she is even A tier. I think she is B tier because even these characters that are in here are still better than her. Like, Anaxa is better than her. Himeko Nova is of course good. Aglaea is also good. Not Phainon, Firefly. So yeah, I don't think she is on the same level as them. She is. Well, it sucks because I do like Feixiao, and there was a point in time where I was thinking about getting her E2 when she rerun, but I'm not getting that anymore, bro. Hell no, you're not catching me with that. Tribbie. Tribbie is a no-brainer. She is S tier. Oh, sorry, S tier. Like, anyone who has played the game, Tribbie is so old by now, I think it's very common knowledge that she is top tier. Like, there's no discussing it. Even though we got other support, even though we got Mortenax Blade, even though we got fucking the Nova Flare of Sparkle, even though we got, I don't know, Welt, who is technically a support, but Tribbie is still good, because Tribbie, the main thing about her is that she has good debuff. Like, she buffs the whole team, she gives respan for the whole team, so it makes it so she is good in like double carry teams, like for example the Ashveil and the Mortenax Blade teams, or any other teams that use double DPSs. She immediately gains a lot of value because she is buffing both of them. But also she gets a lot of follow-ups, and because of the follow-ups it means she synergizes well with a lot of cards. Like, for example, Blade, like I talked about, like Mortenax Blade that I was talking about. Every time someone in the team attacks allies, then he gains a charge, and that charge makes it so it gets closer to his follow-up attack. She also synergizes well with Ashveil, who also wants the enemies to get attacked to get his proc. And also, for example, if you have Acheron team with Mortenax Blade, then she hits the enemy, so she procs the buff from Mortenax Blade's passive, so she gives more stacks to Acheron. So you get the idea. And because she gets a lot of follow-ups, she also means she gets a lot of energy from those follow-ups, which means she gets a lot of ults, which means she procs a lot of DDD. This is why Tribbie's best Litecoin is not her signature, it's actually DDD, because it gives more action advance to the team, and and also the follow attacks procs every time someone in the team uses an ult. So you can get an idea about how it works. Like, you get more procs, more ults, more DDD, and more synergy with your other teammates like Ashveil. So it's just like a good synergistic. Any team that she works well is a good synergistic team. It's very hard to find a bad team for Tribbie. The only issue that she has, of course, is that she can't work well with break teams, dot teams, and some specific teams. But other than that, she is busted. She is good. She is still worth it even to this level. If you want to invest in her, then get her E1, because her E1 is like her best damage increase for the team, because it makes it so that the team deals a certain amount of the damage that they deal as an extra true damage, which is insane. So yeah, and you don't really need to put for a light one, just use DDD, bro. Just use DDD as soon as you have it, because I know some people don't have an S6 DDD, which sucks, but you can even use it at whatever copies do you have. Mydei, the Giga Chad himself, the king of Kremnos. So Mydei is an HP scaler, and he also has an insane survivability, and I also think he is A tier. He is good. Like when he released, it was not that great because he didn't have many supports, and it took so long for Cyrene to release, which was the one who made him actually not bad, because she gives him a lot of crit damage on his extra attack. I can't remember what it was called, and she also makes it so that it's easier for him to proc that attack. I don't really have much to talk about him because I don't have him, and he is very simple, and you don't you don't even play him, because during his state, like he has an enraged state, you can't even control him. He only attacks by himself. So he is a decent DPS if we're talking about imaginary DPSs, but he is also not super great. I can see him falling off a little bit the more we go into the meta. The only thing that sucks about Mydei is the fact that we don't have support for him. Like, I don't know, like the only supports that he really had are Cyrene, and because of Cyrene now we can also use Hyacine. But other than that, he doesn't have like a solid fourth spot. Like, you can maybe use Tribbie, you can use Mydei, characters like that. Not Mydei, I mean Mortenax Blade. But other than that, he doesn't have many teammates that you can use for him. His options are very limited. To be honest, I think he was one of the characters who got done the dirtiest in Amphorius, like among the Amphorius cast, like in terms of kit, not story. I think the story actually did him really good. That's why he is my favorite in Amphorius alongside the Phainon. Acheron, my beloved. Acheron, so Mei in general is like my second favorite Huohuo character. And of course I have a lot of things to talk about Acheron. But don't forget, this is E0, like E0 Acheron, not E2, not E6, not anything. Although I do have an E6 Acheron, but I'm going to be talking about E0 perspective. But anyway, E0 Acheron, I would say she is good. Like, and this is mainly because of Mortenax Blade, not because she is actually good, because prior to Mortenax Blade, if we were talking about Acheron, I'll probably put her in here. Like, I know this must be insane thing to say, because back when she released, she was the most broken character, and she was the queen of the meta for a long time. But last year, during the Amphorius arc, she was basically just a meme. she wasn't good. She was not that great. But after Mortenax Blade, she is now at least A tier. But anyway, let's get to talk about Acheron. Acheron as a DPS, she is very straightforward, to be honest. There's not much to talk about her, because everything that I would have wanted to talk about her, I already talked about it in the Mort section. So if you're curious about more about her, just check the Mortenax Blade section that I talk about, because it's hard to talk about any of them without talking about the other. So I'm just gonna skip through those things. And basically, the way Acheron works is that every time someone in the enemy in the team inflicts a debuff on the enemy, no matter what debuff it is, then she gets a stack. And after 9 stacks, she gets the chance to use her ult, which does a lot of damage. Well, kind of a lot of damage by today's standards, but anyway, she does damage when she gets 9 stacks with her ult. She also can get her stacks with her skill, like she does. She gets it, and also her light cone. The light cone also provides a debuff, which also contributes to that. This is why her light cone is a high priority for her. And this is all there is to say about E0 Acheron. There's not much to say. She is one of the simplest and most straightforward DPSs in the game. Stack, get stacks, ult, and then stack again, and so on. The thing about Acheron for the longest time was that her E2 was busted. The reason... Oh yeah, before I talk about her E2. So, one of the weaknesses, previous weaknesses, not right now, it's not really a weakness right now, but one of the previous weaknesses about Acheron was that she needs 2 nihilities in the team to get her buff, because she gets like she gets more damage. I don't remember how much it was, but she gets more damage. You need to get the max stack of her team. Anyway, I know that made it sound confusing. TLDR is that you need 2 nihilities in the team besides her. So for example, you need, before Mortenax Blade, you need, like, for example, Jiaoqiu and I don't know other needs, maybe Pela or whatever character. You need 2 nihilities. And this is bad. Why? The reason it was bad because if you are using Acheron alongside 2 nihilities, then that leaves you only with 1 spot. And that spot you have to decide between either a support, like a Harmony support, or a sustain. And for the average player, a lot of people would use a sustain. And if you're using a sustain, then it means her damage is sinking a lot. And because of that, a lot of people would rank easier Acheron as not that great because a lot of her potential is limited. However, her E2 kind of fixed that because it makes it so that she only needs 1 nihility in the team right now. And because of that, it means that you have 2 free slots in her team now. And that slot you can use it either between 2 supports so that you can buff Acheron to the max, or you can use 1 support and 1 sustain. And at least you're not losing that much damage. And the other nihility at that time you can use Jiaoqiu because Jiaoqiu was the premium teammate that she had at that time. Not anymore. Right now it's Mortenax Blade easily. But yeah, this is why her E2 was considered good at that time. Although, however, nowadays I don't think the value of her E2 has the same value as it used to have back then. The reason because right now Mortenax Blade is always going to be sticking with her. Period. Like you are never going to be using Acheron without Mortenax Blade. But also you can kind of use other nihilities with her without using too much damage. Like for example, if you have an invested Jiaoqiu, if you already has a Jiaoqiu before and you don't have other supports, then you can actually use Jiaoqiu alongside Mortenax Blade. And Mortenax Blade technically can act as a sustain, right? He can act as a sustain where, because he gets a lot of taunt where he makes enemies attack him, and even if he dies, then he can use his revive again because of his zone, etc. Like I said, you can just check the Mortenax Blade if you want to learn more about him. So you're not losing too much damage. But another teammate who is just got buffed recently is Welt. And Welt is actually insane with her. So if you use, for example, Acheron with Welt and Blade, you're actually getting a lot of damage. So at that point, her E2 is pointless because you're not getting the value of her E2 because you're already getting a lot of damage. And by the way, especially I'm talking especially about E4 Welt because it gives the 30% res ban. So at that point, there is no point for her E2. Like you're already getting a lot of buffs from Mortenax Blade and Welt. You can even use another support at that point, like Sparkle or Tribbie or whatever you want, to make her do even more damage. And you are sustaining too, because between Mortenax Blade and between Welt, you are making it so that the enemies won't attack you that much. They won't attack Acheron or your support. They are either going to be attacking Mortenax Blade, or they're not going to take in a turn at all because of how Welt ult works, because it delays the actions of the enemies. So yeah, her E2 is not as valuable as it was before. The only good thing is that E1, it gives free crit rate, so it makes it so that she's easier to build, and it also makes it so that you can potentially use a crit damage body instead of a crit rate, so you can stack more crit damage on her. But yeah, this is for like Acheron. Acheron is a decent DPS right now. She's not the best, but she has gotten a good support recently between Mortenax Blade and between the buff that E4 Welt got, and even Sparkle. Like the team that I use actually with the Acheron is Sparkle. Like I have her E2, so I use her with Sparkle too. Boothill. So Boothill, the funny cowboy man. Man, I wish I could put Boothill so high because I just like his character so much. But unfortunately, just like the other break DPS, she never got like the other, not in plural, because there was one other break DPS in here. Because I'm not talking about Firefly, by the way, I'm talking about Rappa. So Boothill never got other supports. He is kind of homeless. And I think he's just alright. I don't think he's really bad to make him in S or D tier, but he's also not super good. He is still usable. He is fun. Like, he is a very fun character, but he doesn't do much. Like, basically, he does a big burst of damage when he breaks the enemies, like, you know, with the big shotgun or whatever that weapon is called, and then he does his damage. But he is kind of slow because you really need to break the enemy. And even with the Dahlia, then it's still not that. It's not that he's not that great, but the Dahlia benefits Firefly more compared to Boothill. Like, we really need. He really needs another flare or a dedicated support for him and Rappa, because Firefly or she already got enough supports. Like, that's enough. give something to push into. Yeah, Hyacine, the best sustain in the fucking game. S tier, no question asked. So, Hyacine is, oh, first of all, she is the best sustain in the game. If you have Hyacine in your team, then you can forget about dying. You will never die. Like, even if you play like a fucking 7 years old, you are not gonna be dying with Hyacine in the team. So this is one of her strengths. But that's not all. Like, Hyacine, what she does is that her ult makes it so that she gives an increased max HP of the whole team. And this is fucking insane for the HP scale. So this makes it that she is a niche support for like the HP scalers like Mydei, like Castorice, like Evernight, like Jing Yuan, any HP scaler, like Blade, like both blades, like Mortenax Blade and the standard blade. And the issue with Hyacine though is that she kind of needs her light cone, because her light cone procs a lot of things. Like it procs Evernight, it procs Jing Yuan, it procs Castorice, because her light cone makes it so that every time she launches her Memo Sprite or she takes a turn when her Memo Sprite is in the field, she consumes a certain amount of HP to the team. It's only a small amount of HP, but that small amount procs a lot of things in the team for the teammates who synergizes with losing HP. So with HP drain mechanics. We don't have too many of them though, but the teams that use her better. So this is why her light cone has a lot of value. Also, her light cone applies the total damage vulnerability to the enemy. It's not really important, but it's kind of worth mentioning. But yeah, Hyacine has a lot of usage. So Hyacine is only mainly good because of the teams that she works with, not because you just slammer with any team. But if, for example, if you just need sustain, then she's also good. Like even with the teams that she doesn't synergize with, like you're fucking using, I don't know, if you're using like Himeko, or if you're using, I don't know, Aglaea, and for example you're using her in a stage where you die a lot, and if you don't have any other sustains, then you can use her. But yeah, but she does have some very specific teammates that she wants to use if you're using her in an HP scaling teams. Her E2 is actually busted. I do have her E2 by the way, and I only got it mainly because Jing Yuan is my wife and because I want to invest vertically in Jing Yuan, and the next best investment I did was Hyacine, E2 Hyacine. Her E2 makes it so that she gives increased speed to the team. And if you care, for example, about low cycle clears or even anomaly modes, like whether it be in King or whatever, then that speed increase is fucking busted. Like it's so good. It's so good. It makes your team fucking zoom in the action bar. Lingsha. Lingsha, one of the best designs in the game, in my opinion. Lingsha gets memed on a lot, and I can kind of see the reason why people have that, but I also think she is kind of overrated. I think a lot of people hate on her for no reason, but I don't know how to explain it. But first of all, I think she can be I think that's gonna be Phainon City. I know I said she gets overrated, but I also don't think she's in the same tier as these characters. But let me explain. So the reason Lingsha is overrated is because she is a break support, a sustain for the break teams. And like I said in the Firefly section, the break archetype is the easiest archetype to play sustainless. Like you don't really need a sustain to play break. And if you want to use a sustain, then that sustain needs to provide at least some utility. And sadly, Lingsha doesn't provide that utility. Like the only utility that she has at E0 is that she gives a debuff in her ult where the enemies get increased break damage, but it's not really something that is game breaking or anything. But she is a healer, and the healing she provides is decent. Like she has a follow-up attack that she does with her bunny that attacks and heals the whole team, although it can be a bit clunky. Like for example, she doesn't have an on-demand heal. Like for example, you can use her skill to heal, but that's pretty much it. She has a mechanic where if a character falls below 50% HP, then she has like this emergency healing that she gives them, but it's also not something that is super insane or anything. Like it also has a cooldown, so it's not like you can proc it every time. But that's pretty much it. But the reason why people don't really value Lingsha so hard is because she also has an alternative option with Aglaea, this character. So Aglaea kind of does the same damage as her, the same job as her. He is also break sustain support and sustainer. And to be honest, like if you just need a sustain for your break team, you can used Gallagher instead of pulling for Lingsha, because Lingsha costs a whole fucking pity. Like she has the same cost as another 5 star. Like for example, you can pull for another character in here instead of her, so there's no reason to pull for her. But the thing about her is that she is not too bad, because for example, if you need a sustain for your break team, then you have to slaughter. For example, we did have some anomaly stages in the past where the enemies hit so hard that if you are running a sustainless team for your break team, then they're gonna be dying. You are not going to be making it until the end. And in those teams, I was actually using Lingsha, because usually in my break team I use Dahlia, Firefly, Ruan Mei, and HMC, Harmony MC. This is the team that I use in my break team with Firefly. But if I need a sustain, then I use Lingsha. But I only put it because I liked her, and because when she released, she was not too bad. But right now, I don't really recommend pulling her, to be honest. Like, just use Gallagher. You'll probably have him because you don't get 4 size anyway. Jiaoqiu. Jiaoqiu. It can't, but it did. It did. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with what I'm talking about, but it definitely did. So Jiaoqiu, when he released, he had only one job, and that's to support Acheron, and that's it. But like I said earlier, Acheron was starting to fall off in the meta, and because of that, it means that Jiaoqiu was falling also with her. Then the issue is that Jiaoqiu, there are not a single team where you can use him, at E0 at least, because at E6, actually he was good. During a certain period of time, he was a good universal support. Not anymore though, because Blade does everything that he does much better, but he was actually not bad, and he was actually the best in slot teammate for Acheron. He was the best teammate for her. There was no other option, because he was the only character who could give her consistent stacks. But right now, I don't know, man. He doesn't have any job. Like, Silver Wolf, when she got buffed, she was better than him technically. Blade, he's like fucking 10 times better than him. Like, there's not a single scenario where you would want to use Jiaoqiu over Blade. And because he also doesn't have many other teams to use, like there is not a single team. Like when I say he doesn't have any team, like I quite literally, like he only has Acheron, but Acheron now has other teammates that are better than him. And because of that, I think I kind of want to put him in B tier, but I don't even think he falls into that. He's probably just C tier. Like if you somehow don't have Blade, if you don't have Silver Wolf, you don't have some Cypher or whatever, then you can use him. But other than that, he doesn't have any other team. Okay, now we're talking. So now we're gonna be talking not about one character, not about 2, but 3 characters at once. And the reason is because these characters come in a pack. And that's not other than the trio lesbians. And that's Kafka, Black Swan, and Hyacine, which are all, by the way, in S tier. So the reason I'm putting them all together. The dot team, there's only one variation of dot team that you can play, and that's these 3. There is not any other character that you can play, period. Like if you want to play dot, you need to have these 3. If you don't have them, you can't play dot. Forget about it. There's no if, like there's no can I replace this character with this? No, you can't. You need to get all of them. But anyway, I'm gonna try to briefly talk about each one of them. So I don't want to say the most important character, so because they're all important. So Hyacine, you can think of her as the main damage dealer of the dot team, and she was also the character who revitalized the dot archetype, because the dot was fucking dead in the ditch for a long time until Hyacine is released. So when Hyacine is released, she was really good because she does a good amount of damage, she has a good debuffs, and she applies a lot of dot, and she is insane. Kafka's job in the team is that she procs the dot. So for those who don't know how dot works in not just Honkai Star, but in turn-based in general, dot procs only when the enemy takes a turn. So the dot is damage over time, of course. In regular games that are not turn-based, it's the damage that keeps tickling on the enemy. But in turn-based, because they don't have real time, they only proc that damage when they take the turn. But of course, this makes it so that it's slow. You don't want to wait for the enemy to take a turn before they get the damage from the dot, even if it's amplified, but this makes it so that it's so slow. And this is where Kafka's job comes in. So Kafka makes it so that she procs the dot on the enemies instantly, either with her skill or with her ult. And recently after her buff, because she got her buff last year, I think even with her follow-up attacks. So instead of waiting for your turn to make for the enemy's turn to make them take the dot damage, it makes it so that you can proc it instantly. And this is why Kafka, you can think of her as the enabler of the team. And Black Swan basically she gives a lot of debuffs called the Arcana, and these Arcana, they are counted as like all of the dot elements, like because there's wind, there's physical, there's fire dots, there's all elements of dots. And Arcana makes it so that her buffs count as all of those. She also has a defense shred, and her ult makes it so that she applies a debuff on the enemy, where after they take a turn, the dots on them don't disappear, like they still stick on them. So she makes the dots on the enemies persist, and then you can keep stacking them, and then you can do more damage. And this is why the dot team is so good, because every character in this team has a job in them, and if you don't have one of them, then the whole dot team falls apart. There's no such single character who is important or like you can replace. Like there's no such thing as that. But yeah, like this is the dot team if you want to play it, and it's still good. Like it's still a meta team. A lot of people zero cycle with it, and it's not so hard to pilot either. Like it's kind of easy to use too. Next up is none other than my wife. Like, in case it was not obvious, Jing Yuan is for people who are new to the channel, it's not going to be obvious, but I already made the videos and I always talk about her in my Honkai style videos. But Jing Yuan is the character that I consider as my wife, and she was my first ever E6 character from any gacha, not just from Honkai Star, but from any gacha. And by the way, my Jing Yuan is actually rank 1 Jing Yuan in the world. So I already made a video about her for anyone who wants to check it. So I'll link it. I'll link it, but you can check it in the section, because I don't want to be shitting my videos that hard. But anyway, so Jing Yuan is a character that I know a lot about. So, but sadly, even though I love her so much, but I think she is a C tier. It sucks, bro. It sucks. My wife, bro. Man, I wish I could put her so hard. But even after her boss, even after everything, I can't be biased. Like, I want to be as rational as possible, and as much as it sucks to put her in here, but that's the truth, especially at E0. So let's talk about Jing Yuan. I'm just gonna be talking about briefly, because even though I really wanna talk about her a lot, but there's not much to talk about, because I don't want to be selling her to anyone, because she's not good. You don't have to pull for her, to be honest. So Jing Yuan, after her boss, is an HP scaler. So it means that she works well with Hyacine. That's why I mentioned Hyacine earlier, that she has a lot of mechanics that work with some HP scalers. But the reason why she works well with Hyacine is because Jing Yuan has a mechanic where she just got after her boss, that every time she loses HP, someone in the team loses HP, she gains some stacks. And after she gains those stacks, like after 20 stacks, she gained 1 stack of her like orbs, like the one where she stays in her transmigration state. I'm not going to be talking about how she gets into a transmigration state, because it's very simple. Like, you get into combat, you get 2 skills in, or 1 skill if you use your talent, and you get into it. And once you're into that state, then you're pretty much going to be permanently in it. You're not going to exit it anymore. So once you're into that state, every time allies in the team use HP, like either by attacking or by your team's effects, then she's gonna be getting some stacks, and after certain 20 stacks, she's gonna be getting 1 stack that allows her to stay in her transmigration state. And the thing about it is that when she has max stacks of those, like she has 4 orbs of those, or 5 orbs if you have her at E6, if you have 4 max of those orbs, she gains defense shred. Like, her skill allows it so that she can get some pen, and that's basically all she does. Like, honestly, that's all she does. Like, that's the main mechanic about her. The only good thing about her is that she gains free crit rate in her states. She gets 50% crit rate, or 52 if you have her E6, and so it makes it so that she's easy to build. So that's the way you can stack a lot of HP on her. Like, this is why we use the HP body on her, not the HP, not the crit damage, because nowadays after her buff, she gets a fraction of crit damage. Like, she gets insane. Like, when I say insane, like, she gets like 400 crit damage just from her, like by herself. And then you use like HP orb, of course, and then ice damage. HP orb is also decent if you do have one with good stats and if you can get high speed with it. But yeah, this is all about Jing Yuan. As much as I want to talk about her, but there's not much to talk about, to be honest. Clara is a standard character. To be honest, I'm not going to be spending too much time talking about her. She just has a mechanic where when she gets hit, then Svarog, like one of summon. It's not counted as a summon even. Like it's just like a follow-up attack that she throws when she gets attacked. There's not much to talk about her, so she's in D tier. Like, she is a standard character, she's a day one standard character, she's not relevant in anything. Himeko, my beloved, I already talked about how Himeko is my favorite Huohuo character, so I'm not gonna mention that. I'm not gonna mention that again, even though I love her so fucking much. But anyway, as much as I love her base Himeko, so Himeko, the thing that she had a while ago is that when she was released, like when the game was new, she was obviously designed to be a DPS, like a crit DPS. But later on, she kind of started to phase out of that to become a break DPS. And what allowed her that is Dahlia, the Dahlia. So the Dahlia made it so that she can be a really good, not really good, but she decent break DPS, especially in pure fiction. But that's more about Dahlia than the Himeko, to be honest. Like, this doesn't mean that Himeko is good, it just means that the Dahlia is good. But nowadays, even for that strat, like in pure fiction, like you can use it for fun. Like, it's a very fun strat to use the Dahlia with Himeko, but it's not very effective nor anything. But other than that, she doesn't have any other job. Like, it's not like you can use her in any other mode. Like, you can't really use her in mock. It's not like you can't, but she's not really gonna be good. You're mainly gonna be carried by your support if you use her or something. But anyway, she's not really great. It sucks to put her next to Jing Liu, but there's not much she can do nowadays. Fugue. So, Fugue is an interesting character. I think Fugue is a B tier character. What makes her B? I don't know if she's... I kind of wanted to put her in A, but the thing is that she is not really necessary for the teams, because not only is she niche support, but she also can be replaced in the team that she can be used on. So Fugue is a break, not DPS, she has a break support that works only with break. She doesn't work with any other archetype. You can kind of use her in other teams if you want, but she's not like made for that. But her main gimmick is that she gives 2 toughness bars to the enemy. So as long as she exists on the field, you're going to be seeing 2 bars. Like, after you break the first one, you're going to have a second one, but that one has less toughness compared to the first one, so it's easier to break compared to the first one. And you might think, why the fuck would I want to give the enemies 2 bars? But that's because of the way break works. So break have a lot of mechanics that interacts with breaking the toughness of the enemies. Like, for example, Firefly, E2 gives her an extra turn, Boothill give him that extra nuke that he does, Rappa as well. So that's why this 2 bars is actually good. She also gives the buff to the ally where they gain defense threat, like they ignore central defense. And she also has a super break multiplier. The only issue is that the super break multiplier that she has is lower than HMC. And this is why I say that for Fugue, if you want to use her in the break teams, she's kind of replaceable because she doesn't break damage. She breaks utility. The utility that she breaks is good, but break is like needs more front load damage. This is why characters like HMC and Ruan Mei are better. Those 2 are gonna give you more damage and DPS compared to having Fugue in the team. But if you want, for example, I don't know, utility, or if you have some specific strats to use for the double break, the double bars that she has, then you can use her. She's not bad. Like, she is good for the break teams. She's not bad for them, but she's not really necessary. Jing Yuan, our general. So Jing Yuan, like, man, Jing Yuan, like, even when he was released, like when the game was still fucking new, like literally on the first updates of the game, and he was still very controversial. Like, imagine, like, usually when it comes to gacha games, when a character released in the first update, they're always considered as a top tier. But Jing Yuan was not really considered as such because his mechanics are so clunky. He has this summon called the Lightning Lord where he has his own action bar and he behaves on his own, so you don't have much control to him except if you have Sunday. But he is very slow, clunky, and gimmicky. I don't think he is worth it at all. Like, Jing Yuan is like one of the worst 5 stars that we have, 5 stars limited DPSs in the game, if not the worst, to be honest, because even Cyrene is now kind of better than him. So it's obvious that he's gonna be in C tier. Now we're getting to the hot stuff. The Dahlia. Easy S tier, no question asked, no debate, no anything. The Dahlia. So if you hear people talk about a support and then they ask if they are the Dahlia of this archetype, then that's because the Dahlia revived the break like no other support revived their archetypes. The Dahlia is fucking insane. She is busted. The thing that she does for break is crazy. I don't think there's any support in the game who was as impactful as the Dahlia. So let's start what she does. So what she does is that she makes it so that the break DPSs in the game do the super break damage even if the toughness bar is up. Because if you're familiar with how break works, is basically after you break enemies is when you start doing damage to them. So they can kind of be very slow, but the Dahlia makes it so that they can completely ignore the whole mechanic of the whole archetype. So break axes are like the crit DPS now, because as long as the Dahlia is in the team, you don't really have to break the enemies. Breaking the enemies is only an extra bonus, especially for characters who like proc something after it, which is basically all of the break DPSs. And this is why also she is good for Firefly, because they both share the same elements, so she makes it so that they both break the bar faster. She also has the defense shred with her ult, and she is so fucking busted. The enemy, so she has this buff that's called the dance buff. So the buff makes it so that the ally that you give the buff to, they do an instance of super break. This is on top of the other super break from her skill, because her skill deploys a field, and that field makes it so that the team do more super break damage. But anyway, she has break efficiency, more super break damage for the ally who has the highest break in the team. She also has defense shred, and she also makes it so that the ally that she is dance partner with regenerates more energy. So this is good, especially for Firefly, because Firefly is one of the issues that she had once her ult finishes. It can be a bit clunky to get her energy back, but because of the Dahlia, it makes it so as soon as her ult is finished, you can enter it immediately. Like sometimes you already have enough energy after the ult, after Firefly's ult finishes, so she gets that energy. Also, the dance, whenever the dance partner attacks, the Dahlia launches a follow-up attack. That follow-up attack, you can think of it, is only good because it inflicts more weakness bar to the enemies. It does a bit of damage, but it's not an insane amount of damage. But anyway, that's why the Dahlia is good. Like, she provides everything that the break teams need: break efficiency, debuffs, super break, fucking everything. Like, it even makes it so she can ignore the whole mechanic of the archetype. She is the most cool for break. Like, you need a Dahlia if you want to make your break DPS do damage. Hyacine, bro, I don't want to waste my time talking about Hyacine. I honestly don't even remember what he does, but he is a hunt DPS standard character. Like, enough said. Like, I don't even like hunt, cooked, but unless if your name is Ashveil, and he's a standard character, so his DPS is gonna be fucking dog shit, because standard DPSs are not gonna be good unless if you have some utility. And his mechanics, I don't even remember what the mechanics were. Bailu, kind of the same. So Bailu, she is a standard healer. She doesn't do anything other than healing. She has a revive, but the revive is not really relevant. Like, I don't even know when you would need a revive in the game, to be honest, unless if you don't... Like, if you need a sustain, there are other sustains that you would want to use that are better than it, because even her sustain is not really that amazing. Jiang, the first Elation character and the last in the list. There's a reason why I say the last. I'm going to be talking about at the end of the video. But Jiang is here. Oops, sorry. Jiang. You know what? You can think of Jiang as the Dahlia of Elation. She is the core character for Elation. If you want to play any Elation team, if you don't have Jiang, I don't know what the fuck you are doing with your account, to be honest. Like, Yuan is very mandatory for Elation, because she provides everything that Elation needs. Like, I'm not familiar with the Elation it's not that I'm not familiar with them, but can't talk about them, because otherwise I'm just going to be LARPing. And I don't want to be LARPing about characters that I don't have, or teams that I don't play in here too much. But I do know what she does. But she is like the premium support for Elations, because she allows their mechanic, but she also buffs their damage. She's both the amplifier, she's both the enabler, and without her, I don't know what character you can use, because any other character you're going to be using, especially because right now we are still kind of early in the Elation meta. This is still only like the 5th update that we had in Plan Arcadia. We are in 4.4 as I'm recording this video, by the way. We still don't have anything. We already had the drip marketing of Aventurine, but I don't know what he does. We still didn't release yet, so that's why I'm not talking about him. But anyway, without Yuan, there are not other characters that you can replace for her. Like, you are just taking your account. So your first investment in Elation should be her, and only her first. Like, try to get her, and then you can build your Elation. Because I can't imagine what you can put. I'm trying to think if you want to use like Silver Wolf or Evanisha, like, what the fuck are you going to be using? Like, are you going to be using Sunday? Are you going to be using Mort? Like, maybe you can use Mort, but it's not going to be having the same performance. Danheng. So Danheng is an interesting character. He was given for free, and he was one of the best sustains in the game, but also because of the utility that he had. Because he has a bond that a buff called the Bond Mate that he give to one of your DPS. It's going to be to your DPS, of course, and that buff gives attack buff to your team. And he also gives a dragon to them, where he can launch as an attack. And that dragon is relevant because if you are using Sunday, then it makes it so that the character benefits from Sunday a lot. They get 80% total damage instead of only 30%. So Danheng is a good sustain for a lot of teams. So you can be used for the Dot team, you can use it for Acheron, you can be used for example, Himeko Nova. There are a few teams that it can be used for. So I kind of want to be saying he's in S tier, but I would say he's A tier, but he can be S tier, especially if you have investments in him. But he is good. Like, you can never go wrong with him, especially if you have like his E1 or his E2. It makes him even more busted. But yeah, he is a good sustain. Like, if you want a sustain while not losing damage, then I think Danheng is the best sustain that you can have for that slot. Like, for example, if you want to use a sustain with Acheron, you can use, of course, Welt, but you can also use Danheng if you need pure sustain, because his shields have good uptimes. You can never run out of his shields. But the issue is that he can only work with attack scalers, because that's what he gives. He only gives attack. He doesn't give anything else. Sealy, literally the first character in the game, and the character who was like one of the most memed characters in the game. Sealy got buffed recently, but her boss didn't change too much. I can't even remember what they do, to be honest, with her boss. I know what she does, but I don't remember what her boss did with her. But her main gimmick was that she needs to kill an enemy for her to get an extra turn. I think her buff made it so that if she hits an enemy at below 50%, she can get an extra turn too. But I can't remember exactly, to be honest. So I think you can check it out instead of taking my word for it. But anyway, Sealy, after her buff, she is decent. I wouldn't say she is fucking garbage. She is still usable. There are some people who make her work. Like, there are some really insane dedicated Sealy mains who are doing their hardest to make her work. But it doesn't mean she is good. Like, she is not on the same tier as these guys over here, as B tier. This is why I'm putting her as C, because I kind of want to give her some respect. But she is not higher than this. Cypher the Homeless Cat. Oh my god, bro. To this day, I still don't know what the fuck Cypher was supposed to do, because when she released, she was obviously designed to be a support for Acheron, but it feels like she's suffering from the same symptoms as Jiaoqiu, where that's the only job that they have. But as soon as Acheron phase out of the meta, then they're homeless, jobless, and they don't have anything to do. And this is why Cypher is not that good now, because she doesn't have any team. Literally, she doesn't have, because the only thing that she does is that she gives debuffs. Because she is Annihility, she gives vulnerability, she gives an increased defense shred. Her light coin is more relevant than her, to be honest. Like, her light coin, like, you're better off pulling her light coin than pulling for her. But anyway, Cypher, she's not that great. Like, anything that she does, Mort does, like, infinitely better. Like, Mort basically mocked both. Like, you can take as Mort does the same job as Jiaoqiu and Cypher combined, and even Silver Wolf. Like, if you take Silver Wolf, Jiaoqiu, and Cypher, these three, like, the combined are still worse compared to Mort. But anyway, I think she's gonna be on the same tier as Jiaoqiu. Like, her and Jiaoqiu should be on the same tier. And now we are on to the problematic character, Phainon. If you remember earlier in the video, I talked about how there's going to be one character that I'm going to be talking about, the E2, and that's how I'm going to be ranking him. I'm only going to be ranking Phainon based on his E2. And the reason is because E0 Phainon is not a real character. Like, bro, Phainon at E0 is so bullshit. Like, if we are going to be talking about E0 Phainon, okay, we're going to be putting him maybe alright, maybe in here. Like, either in B or C tier. But E2 Phainon is going to be S tier. So let's talk about Phainon. So Phainon, he's also not super complicated, so there's not much to talk about him, because it's also straightforward DPS. But the main thing about Phainon is that he has, when he enters the battle, he has a certain amount of stacks that he needs to reach before he can use his ultimate. These are called the core flames, and he needs 12 core flames for that. And the way you can get these core flames is when he is targeted by anything. Like, I know a lot of people think that it can only be buffs from the allies, but that's actually not right. Because one thing that I think a lot of people don't know is that even when the enemies, like even if the enemies attack him or target him with something, he still gets a core flame. Like, so it's not only the allies buffs, but obviously the most reliable way is going to be the buffs that you can give him with your teams, because it's not like going to be praying that your enemies attack you. So, oh yeah, and also you can get the core flames from his skill, which you can get because of the way his supports work, because you're going to be using it with Sunday or Sparkle, which give him action advance, so you can actually use his skill. But yeah, that's the way you can get his core flames, so that you can get his ult. And when he enters his ult is when the real fun begins. So when he enters his ult, it's not he deploys his zone, but he purges everyone from the field. Only him stays in the field. He's like isolated, which means he cannot interact with his allies anymore. Like, it's only him versus all the enemies. You might think this is bad, but it's not really bad, because he can still sustain himself. Like, you are never going to be dying. Just to make it clear, you are never going to be dying when he is in his ult. Like, even if you are a bad player, because he has a lot of healing and he has a lot of damage reductions. He's also immune to CC, so you can never get stunned or anything. You're not losing chance. But the thing is that during this stage, he has a certain amount of turns that he can take. So he has 8 turns when he is in his in this ult. And these turns, you have to take them and then make the most out of them. And this is why you have to buff him before you use this ult, because all the buffs that you apply to him before this are going to be sticking on them. So you have to know how to properly time your buffs when he enters this, so that you can make the most out of his 8 turns. And these 8 turns, he has a specific amount of... I'm not going to get into the AV and how speed works and its factors into this, because it's going to be a bit complicated. I want to make this a bit simple, but you can't manipulate his speed or his AV when he is in this form. That's one of the downside of this. So when he is in this, he has to build some stacks by either his basic attack or his special counter. His basic attacks give him 2 stacks, and his counter gives him a stack depending on how many enemies are on the field. So if there are 2 enemies, he's going to get 2 stacks. If there are 3, it's going to get 3. If there are 4, he's going to get 4. And you need 4 of these stacks to launch his meteor attack. And this meteor attack is his main source of damage. Like, it is the big boom damage that he needs, and it's basically what you build towards to. And this is where it comes that his E2 is good. So his E2, what it does is that after you get that meteor, like it says here, if you have foundation started, like this is the meteor attack. If you launches it when you have 4 stacks, then he gets an extra turn. And like I said before, extra turns in turn-based games are busted. But for Phainon especially, it's more busted, because like I said, he has limited amount of turns, and this extra turn doesn't count towards that. And this is why it's really good. So when you get an extra turn, you get more turns than 8 turns. You get more. Like, it's not only 8 turns at that point. You are kind of cheating with the turns that you get in them. But this is only when you do the meteor attack. So when you do that, you get 4 turns. You get 1 attack. So the in the extra turn you're going to be doing like either your counter, your basic skill. If you're doing a basic skill, you're getting 2 stacks. But if there are, for example, 4 enemies and you do your counter, then you're getting 4. And then by the next time, you're getting another meteor. So you can see an idea that you're going to be cycling him more during his ult compared to only E0. Because if you're using as E0, then after the meteor, then your turn ends, and then you have to build your stacks more. And I think at most you're only going to be getting 2 meteors per ult, and that's kind of low. Like even with Cerydra, who is going to be giving him an extra meteor, but that's still not enough. But with E2 you're going to be getting more meteors. Like you can even squeeze in 4 meteors if there are more enemies. Like I don't know how what's the max that you can squeeze in, but for example if there are more enemies you can get more stacks because of his counter. But yeah, this is why his E2 is good. And by the way, it also gives rest pain, which is fucking insane. To be honest, like this E2 could only be this second part from here to here. Like it could only be the extra turn, and it would be busted. But then they decided that they also want to give it rest pain, so it also does more damage. So his E2 more than double his damage. Like more than increase his DPS, which is fucking insane. I don't know, I don't think people realize how insane it is to increase your DPS with just 2 eidolons, just 2 costs. But yeah, this is for Phainon. And I know I said I'm gonna only be talking about E0 characters, but to be honest, E0 Phainon is fucking dog shit. Bad. Don't pull him. If you don't plan to get his E2, I'm just gonna be straight with you. Don't pull him if you care about the meta. If you just like Phainon, don't care about meta or clearing or anything, feel free to do so. But like I said in the earlier of the video, this is mainly a meta video. Like I'm gonna be approaching things from a meta standpoint. So from a meta standpoint, E0 Phainon is like one of the worst 5 stars you can get as a DPS. Next up is Lingsha. Lingsha, I'm gonna be honest, there's not much to take on. I still remember when the game was still new. I remember I was glazing Lingsha so hard because I thought he was gonna be one of the best Asian characters at that time. But the game was still new at that time, so we still don't know what kind of direction it was gonna take. Because he had the Dispel, and I thought that the Dispel is going to be more relevant in the future because I played a lot of turn-based games and things like Dispels have a lot of utilities and things like that. I was like, oh my god, Lingsha is going to be busted in the future. But no, he's not. He's not busted. He is C tier, and even during that time, he didn't age too well. Like even by the time we got to Penacony, he was not that great. Okay, let's get this quick. I'm almost done. So Blade. Blade got buffed recently. Not recently, not recently, it was like 1 year ago. Oh my god, I'm getting old. So, Blade got buffed last year. And his buff is, I don't know, like, he was decent. Like, he does decent damage. But also, like, the meta has, like, way more HP right now. Like, the HP inflation was so insane that is not necessarily good. So, I don't think he's B tier. I think he's C tier. Like even though, like I said, Blade is one of my favorite characters, I already glazed this other version. Like there's no need to glaze this one too. But yeah, regular Blade is not that great. He is not a good DPS. He only has DPS. Like he is part of the standard pool though. Like right now you can lose to him, so maybe you can get him E6 or something. E6, but even at E6 is not that insane, because if I remember correctly, the only thing that E6 does is that it reduces the requirement for his follow-up, so he can do follow-up more frequently, and it also increases damage for that follow-up. But even with that, it's not like anything significant, or that's going to be making him really good. Danheng Lune. So Danheng Lune, I'm going to be honest, he's not really that good either. I think he's C tier as well, because when he was released, he was like the most broken character in the game, the most broken DPS. Like you would always see screenshots of how much damage he does. Like he was the guy. But sadly he never got buffed. He aged terribly because of his mechanic, because he's super SP hungry. Like even if you use him with Sparkle, where you can give him a lot of SP, but even then, like he doesn't do that much damage to warrant getting him or pulling him or anything. So he's not really that great in today's meta. Push one is also a preservation character, but she doesn't do that much. I think one of the good things that she had back in days is that she could give free crit rate. That crit rate was not bad, especially because the game was still kind of new at that time, and a lot of people didn't have that much of good gear. So some people compensated with the Fushuan. But the only thing that she does is that she doesn't even give shields. She only she has like a damage share, so she takes some damage to herself instead of the allies, and then after reaching a certain point, she can heal herself and then get those stacks going. But it's nothing like that's crazy. Like I said, if you are a sustainer and you don't provide any other utility, then you are doomed. And Fushuan is so old, she doesn't have any Nova Flare, she doesn't have anything, so I think she is C tier. She is also one of the characters that you can use 50-50 tube, so if you are a new player and you got her, then you can use her. At least she is better than Gerpard. Like, at least both Gerpard and Bailo. Like, she is like the best sustain that you can get from the 50-50 loss. So at least she has that, I guess. Topaz. So Topaz was, like I said earlier in Feixiao section, she was the premium sub DPS for follow-up archetype. She was not bad. Like, she was not bad at that time. But even during that time, she was not crazy. Like, even when she was still new in the game, nobody would put her at S tier at that time, like I'm talking. And we can imagine how she is right now. So she is not that great. Like, Topaz is what she is like Ashveil but worse. She's like Ashveil worse, because Topaz also gives some buffs and debuffs for the follow-up archetype, and she also does damage. But Ashveil does that infinitely better. Like I said earlier, Ashveil gives a lot of follow-up damage, a lot of universal damage just by existing. He does a lot of damage himself, and he has a lot of frequent follow-up attacks, unlike Topaz. So I don't know where to put her though. Like, I kind of want to put her in at least B, because I don't think she is really in C tier. I think she is mid at best, because she can still have some usage in the follow-up attacks. Like, because especially follow-up attacks don't really have that many options. So at least you can use her with Feixiao if you want, but you want to use her with Ashveil, because Ashveil wants his other teams. Like I said, everyone wants Ashveil, yeah, sure, but Ashveil doesn't want them because they're just gonna bring down the team's damage. So for example, if you don't have Ashveil and you have, for example, Feixiao, you can use Feixiao with Topaz. So I think I'm gonna keep her in here, but I can also see an argument why you can put her in here. Argenti is another character who was kind of do I say bad? I would say mid. I would say Argenti, even on his release, he was kind of mid, because at that time we already had characters. I think he released in the last or second to last update before Penaconi. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, at that time we already had characters like Jing Yuan, like Danheng, like what else? Like Blade. Even Blade was good at that time. Like, I know when I mention these characters they might sound bad or something, but they're not. Like, they are actually really good. So they were really good at that time. It's not like they were bad. Like, Jing Liu and Danheng were like the meta characters. It's not like they were as bad as they are right now. But Argenti, even at that time, he was not on the same tier as those characters. So you can imagine how much he fell off. So I would say he's a C tier. There's no reason for you to use him. Even as a AoE, he's an erudition physical. He has a gimmick where he has 2 charges of his ult, and once you get the full charges, like the second charge of his ult, like, he does more damage with it. But it's nothing crazy. Oh, Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei is interesting though, because Ruan Mei, when she released, she was, like I said earlier, she was the best universal support in the game. Because at that time, I think she was the first Harmony actually we got in the game, no? Let me think. Like, we had Kafka, Wolf, Blade, Danheng, Jing Yuan. Yeah, I think she was actually the first Harmony, limited Harmony that we had in the game. And she was good. Like, she was insane. She was used in everything. And nowadays, surprisingly, she's still good. The only thing about her though is that she is only good in break. She is not an universal support, because there are other universal supports besides, like Tribbie is infinitely better, Sunday, Robin, I don't know, like a lot of other supports are better than her. Like, even Silver Wolf might be better than her if we're talking about general supports. But for break though, she is good. The reason because she's good because of 2 things. She has break efficiency, which is a rare thing to get. Like, only the Dahlia, like from the supports, only Dahlia. Well, Fu can also provide that. But anyway, it's a valuable thing to have. But on top of that, she also has a debuff when the enemy is broken. When they get an action, they get further delayed, so they don't take a turn there. they get further delayed. So she makes it so, if you remember when I said about Firefly that the break team is one of the easiest teams to play sustainless, one of the reasons is because of Ruan Mei, because Ruan Mei makes it so that they can easily sustain during in break, because the enemies don't take that many turns. And she also has good amp, because her ult gives rest band, she also has speed buff with her skill, she also gives attack buff. Like, she is honestly not bad. And if you have her E1, which you can get from the golden shop, then she gives more defense shred, which is not bad if you are playing her with Firefly. And yeah, like for break, if you are using it purely for break with Firefly, then I wouldn't say she's bad. I think she is mid, because even outside of break, like if you don't have any other supports, for example, if you just started the game, you don't have like all of the meta supports, you don't have Tribbie, you don't have all the characters that I mentioned earlier, then you can use her. Like, you can use her if you want to pick her from the golden shop. Although I don't really recommend getting characters from the golden shop unless if you know what you're doing. But if you are desperate for a support, then she is a good option, because she can still function with all of the other teams, not just break. Any character that scales off attack, she can work with them. Not even with attack, because her ult gives rest band, then she's not bad. I would say the only issue with her is that her ult has a very terrible downtime, because it only has 2 turns. To be honest, I wish they could buff it to at least 3 turns, because it would make her less clunky. Because by the time her ult runs down, you're not going to have enough energy to put her field again, and you're going to have a bit of a downtime when it comes to her buffs, unlike a lot of the other modern supports. Usually, look, I really don't like to skim through like characters that I don't really know about, but usually I don't really remember too much what she does. All I know is that she is a counter character, and she is not that great of a character either. Like, even when she released, she was not that great on her release. Like, so when I tell you that when a character released, they were not considered as a top tier, then you can only imagine how bad they are now. Like, they are, it's very, very rare where characters get some decent teammates that elevated them and make them good. But most of the time they're gonna be saying that. But anyway, usually I don't remember what she does. I can't talk too much about her. All I know is that she's not good. She don't really have to invest her. But she is in the 50-50 pool, so you can always lose to her if you want her. You can select her. Rappa. So Rappa is the other break DPS that I was talking about earlier. Like, she's one of the 3 main break DPSs in the game. She also has mechanics where when she breaks the enemies, she can get her enhanced attack. I can't remember what else she does, to be honest. But anyway, right now she is not relevant in the meta. She is not like, she is as relevant as Boothill. And that's, like I said in the Boothill section, that's just because she didn't get that many supports. Like, most of the break supports were benefiting like Firefly more than these two. Which is a shame, because it kind of feels unfair. And to be honest, I can understand why like Boothill and Rappa mains are very salty, especially after seeing how many things Firefly gets. So I can understand. Like, even though I have an E to Firefly, but and I don't even have Rappa or Boothill, but I can understand the frustration of the Rappa and Boothill mains. But yeah, Rappa, she's not that great. Like, if you want to break DPS, objectively speaking, Firefly is much better compared to them. Okay, so now we're getting to the Trailblazer. So I have both genders in here because we believe in gender equity. So I don't want people to be mad because I put only one gender. But anyway, so I'm going to be talking about them one by one. So this is I think this is the Preservation. Yeah, this is the Preservation TB. Preservation TB is not good. So there's not much to talk about. Like, they were kind of decent back when the game was sinew, but their shield is so small. Like, okay, I'm not gonna be saying it, but anyway, it's so small. This is Destruction TB, which is supposed to only be a DPS, so Destruction TB is not good. They don't have any DPS. And now we get to the serious stuff. Harmony MC. Harmony MC is actually good, really, really good. In fact, I would probably even put them at S tier. Like, that's how good they are. So the reason I'm putting them in S tier, because there are some specific teams, like for the break teams, if you want to use them, if you want to run sustainless, then you are gonna, the best in slots in those teams is HMC. The reason is because the HMC, the main thing that they do is that they give a super break multiplier to the team, But that super break multiplier is higher than anyone else, like even higher than the Dahlia, higher than the Fugue, higher than any other break supports. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anyone else. But anyway, it is the highest super break multiplier, so having HMC in the team will increase your break damage by a significant amount. So if you're running a sustainless break team, HMC should always be there if you want damage. And that's why I'm putting them in here. They also can hold the DDD because they get a lot of energy every time an enemy is broken. So they can kind of spam that easily because they have a high energy regen for some reason. But yeah, I'm mainly putting HMC here because they're free, first of all, and also because they have a lot of damage ceiling for your break DPS. And now to RMC, Remembrance MC, Chibi. Remember CB, I think I'm gonna put them in S tier 2. Because, man, Remembrance Chibi is fucking busted. Like, they might as well be a fucking 5-star. So the thing that's the main gimmick for RMC is that they give a certain buff to a single character. It's not AoE. To a single character where they can deal a certain amount of damage that they do as true damage, which is significant. Like, the amount of damage that they give because of this is actually significant. The other thing that they have is also crit rate, and crit rate, like I said in the Sunday review, he is very it's very valuable because crit rate is good, especially if your character don't have 100% HP. Like, for example, if characters only have 80% or 90%, then they're gonna be critting more, and that makes them do more damage, of course. They also give an action advance, although the issue with the action advance is that it's a bit clunky because RMC have these memo sprite that they summon, and it gets some charges. The charge they get either getting hit when the enemies, when the allies use their ult, their skills, their attacks, anything. So it takes a bit of time to build up, so it's not very consistent. Like, you need to charge it and you have to play around it. And there are actually a lot of strats that people use to manipulate this charge and to zero cycle with it. So RMC is actually a character that a lot of people zero cycle with, even with low cost teams. So yeah. And I think RMC also give a crit damage. It's just that I can't remember if the crit damage is tied to their kit or to their light cone. This is why I'm a bit confused. But yeah, RMC is a great support. Honestly, it's if you need, like, if you don't miss, for example, the other action advanced supports, then you can use RMC because RMC is very legit and it's free. Okay, I'm not going to be talking about Elation RMC because I'm leaving that for another section. I'm going to be talking about Saber. So Saber was the collab character that we had in Fate last year, and she is basically a character who relies on her ults a lot. So she needs characters who want to give her energy, like Huohuo or Sunday. And she is actually not bad. Like, I would put her maybe at A tier. She is not as bad as... She's not on the same tier as these characters, but she is decent. Like, she is like... If you have her light cone, I think because she is reliant on her light cone, I can't remember. If you have her light cone and you have her supports, then she does a serviceable damage. She is not super insane though, so don't expect anything crazy from her. But she is... I don't know, man, though. Like, is she on the same team as Himeko Nova and Aglaea though? And Firefly? Maybe. At E0, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. To be honest, take this with a grain of salt. So she can either be at A or B tier. It's very, very, very hard. Like, I know she got Gilgamesh, who kind of supports her too, but I'm gonna be talking about Gilgamesh later because he's still new, just released, like, I think last week? Yeah, last week. So it's still recent. But anyway, Saber is decent, she's not bad. And that's it for the 5 stars. I know there's an elephant in the room, I'm gonna be addressing it, but first of all, I just want to talk briefly about the 4 stars, because to be honest, the 4 stars are not super relevant, to be honest. Like, the 4 stars are very weak. The best one is probably gonna be at maybe B tier. So I'm just gonna be briefly talking about the relevant ones. So Luke, no, Danheg, I can't even remember her name, probably Linux, I think that's her name. Chichi, no, Susha, no, Few, not Few, Jing Yuan, sorry. So Jing Yuan is not bad. So Jing Yuan is not bad as a support because she gives energy, she gives total damage. I think she gives attack percent. I can't remember if she gives attack percent. But for example, if you are new into the game, like completely brand new, like in the early game, you can use Jing Yuan to carry you a little bit as a support because you're not going to be having any other characters anyway. So Jing Yuan is not bad. And okay, else? Pela. Pela is also not bad either. Pela is actually, honestly, Pela, if you ask me maybe 1.5 years ago, I would even put her in B tier, to be honest. Because Pela, what she does is that she has an AoE defense shred, and she also can hold pearls. So she means she gives even more defense shred. And also her energy regen is not bad, so she can spam her ult very frequently. And she is also especially good for ice characters because her skill gives ice shred. So yeah, she is not bad. Like for as a debuffer, you can use her. But again, this only applies like just like I said about Jing Yuan, it only applies if you are new to the game. Natasha, not really. Selva, no. Asta, no. Arla, no. Hook, no. Sample, no. Griffin, no. Yukong, no. Marsh, not really. Like there are some people, some teams that they can kind of use her, but not really. Her, no. Gallagher, okay. So Gallagher, I'm gonna be talking about Gallagher, and I know it might sound crazy, but I'm also putting him next to Lingsha because I already explained everything about him in the Lingsha review. So if you're curious about Gallagher, then just check the Lingsha section. They kind of have a similar job because Gallagher also breaks the Saner, and that's pretty much what he does. Hanya no, Mika no, Misha, excuse me, Misha, Moz. Okay, so Moz. Moz is also as a decent character. So honestly, I'm gonna be putting Moz in here. And I'm not so insane, but I'm gonna be honest. So the difference between Moz and Topaz is not that huge, because back then when Feixiao released, people who didn't have Topaz used Moz, and the difference in performance was not that different. Like it was not that big. I mean. So Moz is actually not bad, which is insane because it is the highest. I still can't believe that I'm putting him in B. I know some people might think I'm crazy, but he is actually not bad. If you want to use him in a follow-up team, then you could actually use that because he actually has a decent damage, decent utility, and he is serviceable. But I just don't know if I want to put. I just don't think if he can be a C tier. That's the thing. So I'll just put him in here. Yeah, I'll just keep him in here. It's a bit hard. Like if people want to think that he can be C tier, sure, but I think he can be in B as well. Okay, so there is Herta. Herta, I'm just gonna be putting her in here. And this is mainly because of Pure Fiction. There are some strats and some things that you can use to her in Pure Fiction because of the AoE and because of the thing. It's just that her damage is not insane. So I'm not going to put her in C tier. I'm going to put her in D tier though. But she is kind of not bad. It's just that her damage is so low, even though she can do a lot of attacks. But if you're doing a lot of attacks but they don't do that much damage, then it's whatever. But for example, for the low stages of Pure Fiction, then maybe she can be decent. This is why I'm putting her in for people who are in the early or the mid game. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room, and that's the Elation characters that I didn't talk about, which are Sparksy, Evanesia, Silverwolf 999, and Elation AMC. By the way, Aventurine didn't release yet, so this is why I'm not talking about him. So the reason why I'm not talking about these characters is because I'm not a LARPer. I don't want to be LARPing in here. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm not too familiar with the Elation meta. So I didn't pull for any Elation character. I'm not interested in that archetype. And I didn't look it up enough to be able to give you a judgment or a review of the characters. So I don't want to be giving you a misdirection or misinfo. So that's like, especially because even if I want to talk about them, I don't know like their in-depth mechanics. I can tell you how good they are. Like for example, Silverwolf is obviously gonna be in S tier because she is like the shield character and she is recent. Evanesia is also good, and I know she is especially good after in her E1, and she works well with some free-to-play because her best teammates are EMC, Elation AMC, and Huohuo, who are both easy to get. Like you can get Huohuo just from the golden shop if you have it, and we got one on her on the anniversary, which was the same update where she released. Sparksy is, I think, alright with the. I think she is the Silverwolf's best teammate, so she is gonna be good for her too. But beside that, this is the only thing that I can tell you about. I can't really go into depth and tell you where there are characters, but obviously because the current concept right now is Shirin Elation, all these characters are going to be looking good, and they're all going to be looking at S tier. But this is the thing, it's going to be hard to evaluate them once the shilling is ending, because we don't know how Silver Wolf or Evanesia or Sparksy are going to age after like the Elation Shield. It's very hard to give a accurate evaluation for them. So yeah, this is why I'm not talking about the Elations. Like I said, these characters right now are good. Like, they are good, but how they're going to be holding in the future, we don't know. Right? Maybe they're going to be in A tier, maybe they're going to be staying in S tier. I don't know. And the last thing that I want to talk about are, like I said, so Wave Aventurine, like Aventurine are not here. So the ones that I want to talk about are Rin and Gilgamesh. But Rin and Gilgamesh are still recent. Like, they just released like last week where I'm recording this. So it's way too early to give any evaluation for them. All I know is that Rin is basically just a dedicated archer support. That's it. Like, she doesn't do anything. Like, by herself, you are never gonna be using her. But she is used with Archer. Like, and because Archer is good, is top tier, then it means that Rin is gonna be good too. The only issue I see is that I'm not sure if, because there is a scenario where even though she is his dedicated support, but I think Archer can still perform better with some other supports, especially if you have them invested. Like, for example, if you have an E2 Sparkle and, for example, an E1 Tribbie and Mort or whatever, then I suspect he might perform even better than Rin. But I don't know for sure. Like I said, she's still new. I can't tell you much about him. Gil, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't look his kit that much. I was a little bit busy lately, so I don't know. I know what he does, but I don't really know how good he actually is, so I'm not talking about him. And like I said, Wave Aventurine and Robikini are still in the beta. I don't think they didn't release yet. They're gonna be releasing next month, like next update. So yeah, we don't know what they do. All we know is this Wave Aventurine is the Elation, so it's probably going to be fitting in one of the Elation teams right now, unless if he's going to be having his dedicated one, but I doubt it. I don't think he's going to be. And Robikini is a remembrance character, so she can be literally anything. She can be a support, she can be a DPS, she can be a sub DPS, she can be even a fucking healer like Hyacine. So remembrance is the hardest part to predict. At least Wave Aventurine is Elation, so it is going to either be a support or a Elation DPS or sub DPS. But yeah, so this is the list. So like I said in the earliest part of the video in the intro, take this list like more as a reference, as an objective fact, because things can always change. Like, they're not going to be always staying the same. Some characters can be bad but then become better after they're in a dedicated support. Like, some characters can be good but then they can fall off because of the meta and things like that. And some things I can see them being debatable, like maybe some people may argue that a character can be an A tier, someone can be an S tier, although I am like at least like 90% confident in the ranking that I put in here. So yeah, I think like if you have any like opinion about some characters and where you think they should be, feel free to let me know. I'm open to discuss these things to you, and I'm also curious to see what do people talk. Who are your mains? Like, what are your favorite characters to use? What are your favorite archetypes? Things like that. Like, just to make it a discussions and stuff like that. Also, this is my first characters tier list, by the way, so I'm not sure about how to do this properly. So if you have any also feedback or something, just feel free to let me know. And with that said, see you next time.